Jiang Chengxuan naturally did not know the answer. Xing Wandao clearly didn't expect him to know the answer either. Xing Wandao replied, "As far as I know, the demon beast riot has been happening every other 200 years for the last tens of thousands of years. It might be even longer than that. Most importantly, in this battle between us humans and demon beasts, we humans are actually at an absolute disadvantage. I don't know the exact situation, but as far as I know, the territory of our human race is almost a quarter less than thousands of years ago. Think about it. With the demon beast riot happening continuously, how many resources can a golden core immortal sect like the Ganyang sect accumulate? If the Ganyang sect is like this, the other golden core immortal sects are naturally not much better. In this situation, it's not that the upper sects like the Ganyang sect and even the large nascent soul sects weren't unwilling to provide us relief provisions, but they really couldn't afford it. Xing Wandao's words made Jiang Chengxuan's heart sink. He did not expect that the situation in the entire human cultivation world would actually be so dangerous. If this was true, how could he cultivate peacefully in the future? Moreover, according to what he knew, their enemies seemed to be not only the demon beast riot, but also the demonic cultivators who existed all the time. These guys cultivated mainly through plundering and killing. They often practiced evil techniques and would sacrifice hundreds of thousands of mortals at the drop of a hat to complete a ritual. It could be said that wherever they appeared, the mortals would suffer. If not for the fact that righteous cultivators like them were stationed in mortal cities all year round, ordinary mortals would not be able to survive in this world. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of urgency. In this world, strength was the most important. If you did not have strength, you would be cannon fodder and the target of plunder. It was impossible for you to stay in one place and be aloof from worldly affairs. Because even if you didn't provoke others, others would provoke you. As the saying went, when the nest is overturned, there will not be an intact egg. If the human cultivators were defeated in the future, or the demonic cultivators occupied the mainstream of the entire cultivation world, even if you were lucky enough to survive, you would definitely not have a good time. Jiang Chengxuan had already made up his mind. When he returned this time, he would do his best to increase his strength at all costs. The more he could increase, the better. That way, when the demon beast riot broke out decades later, he would have more hope of survival. After that, the two of them stopped talking about this serious topic and started to talk about something else. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. This morning, 3 streaks of light suddenly flashed over from the distant sky. When the light approached, the people who appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Xing Wandao were Shen Ruyan, Su Kaiana, and Shen Deifeng. After the two sides greeted each other, Shen Ruyan said, "Elder Xing, next, Elder Su will set up a mid-grade level 2 defensive array here. From now on, my brother will be stationed here. In the meantime, I'll have to trouble you and my brother to cooperate with Elder Su. After the array is set up, you can return on your own. As for Elder Jiang, I need to bring him back. He won't be here for the time being." Hearing Shen Ruyan's words, Xing Wandao immediately smiled and nodded. "No problem, take Brother Jiang back. With me and the Deifeng here, nothing will happen." Shen Ruyan looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, "Elder Jiang, if there's nothing else, let's go back first." "Okay." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Then he turned to Xing Wandao, Su Kaiyan, and cupped his fists at them. "Brother Xing, Elder Su, and Elder Deifeng, take care." With that, Jiang Chengxuan left the level 2 spiritual vein with Shen Ruyan. On the way back, Shen Ruyan smiled at Jiang Chengxuan. "Elder Jiang, it seems like you've been getting along well with Elder Xing these days." "Not bad." Jiang Chengxuan smiled and changed the topic. "By the way, are there any results from the elders' meeting?" As a guest elder, Jiang Chengxuan was also qualified to participate in the elders' meeting in the Shen immortal family. Therefore, Shen Ruyan didn't hold back from telling him. "There's already a result. After Elder Su sets up the mid-grade level 2 defensive array, we'll try to connect that place to Canyon City. At that time, we will build a level 2 cultivation city. That way, we can both protect the mortals and the spiritual vein." Indeed, even though they had discovered a level 2 spiritual vein and a low-grade level 2 spiritual root, Canyon City, which had tens of thousands of mortals, would definitely not be left unguarded. It was inevitable that the two areas would merge. Otherwise, if demonic cultivators attacked Canyon City, should the people on the level 2 spiritual vein go out to help? If they went out, who should be left behind to protect the spiritual vein? Therefore, the safest and most appropriate way was to connect the two places and set up a large level 2 protective array. If Jiang Chengxuan was the decision-maker, he would definitely make the same arrangement. At this moment, the two of them were about to reach the Shen immortal family's base. Shen Ruyan suddenly said to Jiang Chengxuan, "Elder Jiang, our contribution points have been counted. Including the reward of this mission, the level 2 and level 1 demon beasts we killed outside added up to about 8,000 family contribution points. The mission itself is worth 1,400 contribution points. Because most of the materials obtained from killing those level 1 demon beasts are already damaged, their contribution points were about 1,200. The corpses of the other 3 scarlet flame scorpion snakes were worth about 3,000 contribution points. As for the corpse of the level 2 high-grade black mystic python, it's worth 2,400 contribution points." Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but feel excited. A total of 8,000 family contribution points was no doubt a huge number. According to the distribution plan he and Shen Ruyan had agreed on beforehand, he would be able to get 4,000 family contribution points. If exchanged for spirit stones, it was 4,000. Having cultivated for well over 100 years, Jiang Chengxuan had never obtained such a large amount of wealth in one go. Moreover, this was only the reward for killing those demon beasts. It did not include the reward for discovering a level 2 spiritual root and a level 2 spiritual vein. Chapter 28, Going to the Family's Treasure Vault. Knowing that Jiang Chengxuan still had questions to ask, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but smile at him and continue. As for the contribution for discovering a level 2 spiritual vein and a level 2 spiritual root, after the discussion, the family decided to give us a total of 32,000 contribution points. Of course, you and I can choose to take a portion of the ownership of the level 2 spiritual vein and the level 2 spiritual root. That will depend on your choice. The family won't force you. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. When he was chatting with Xing Wandao earlier, they talked about the value of a level 2 spiritual root and a level 2 spiritual vein. According to Xing Wandao, the market price of a low-grade level 2 spiritual root was usually between 8,000 to 15,000 spirit stones. This was mainly determined by the effect of the spiritual root. On the other hand, a level 2 spiritual vein was roughly priced at 20 to 40,000 spirit stones. It was also determined by the concentration of spiritual energy it had. Of course, under normal circumstances, be it sex or cultivation families, they would not sell such strategic resources easily. Moreover, their value would also be affected by the terrain and environment. For example, a spiritual vein at the front line of the demon beast riot and a spiritual vein in a peaceful area would have different values. In short, although spiritual roots and spiritual veins were precious, they could not be easily moved, especially spiritual veins. Their market price would also change very drastically with the environment and situation at that time. It was undeniable that it was already very kind of the Shen immortal family to be willing to give them 32,000 contribution points. After all, it was just a low-grade level 2 spiritual root and a level 2 spiritual vein that had just been nurtured. Even if they were sold on the market, their price would not be too high. As for sharing the ownership of the level 2 spiritual root and the level 2 spiritual vein with the Shen immortal family, from the beginning to the end, Jiang Chengxuan had never considered it. From the looks of it, the Shen family obviously valued the silver osmanthus tree and the level 2 spiritual vein very much. For this, they did not hesitate to spend a lot of resources to set up a large mid-grade level 2 defensive array. Moreover, there would definitely be more investment in the future. If he really chose to share the ownership, he might offend the Shen immortal family. After weighing the pros and cons, the wise choice was self-evident. He smiled and said to Shen Ruyan, "I'm not interested in owning the spiritual vein and spiritual root at all. Family contribution points are more practical to me. Elder Ruyan, what about you?" Shen Ruyan replied with a smile, "I'm fine with either. Since you want the family contribution point, I'll choose the family contribution point too." At this point, Shen Ruyan paused for a moment before continuing. "But then again, Elder Jiang, choosing family contribution points is indeed the wisest choice. Because this time, I help you get a special right to exchange. Special right to exchange. Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but think of what Xing Wandao had told him previously. Was that the special right Shen Ruyan was talking about the same as the one Xing Wandao told him? Well, it seems like Elder Xing has already told you something. Shen Ruyan suddenly smiled. As for what you can exchange, you'll know when you see the exchange list. Let me keep you in suspense for now. At this point, Jiang Chengxuan saw a playful look on Shen Ruyan's face. This did not match the image of Shen Ruyan he had in mind. Her playful expression only lasted for a moment before she quickly returned to normal. She continued to say to Jiang Chengxuan, "Since we've already decided to ask for contribution points, let's go straight to the mission hall later. After going through the formalities, we can then head to the family's treasury vault." Jiang Chengxuan had no objections to this. A moment later, the two of them arrived at the Shen immortal family's base, splendid Jade Mountain. After showing their tokens to the mission hall and submitting the relevant mission information, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan each had 20,000 family contribution points. This was the first time Jiang Chengxuan had obtained so much wealth in one go. It would be a lie to say that he was not excited at all. In fact, even Shen Ruyan, the sister of the head of the Shen family, could not hide the joy on her face. It was obvious that she was in a good mood. "Let's go to the family treasury vault together." Shen Ruyan turned around and said to Jiang Chengxuan. Then, she took the lead and flew towards a mountain in the distance. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan quickly followed. After flying for a while, Shen Ruyan brought Jiang Chengxuan to a building with carved beams. Jiang Chengxuan immediately felt that there seemed to be many restrictions here that blocked his and Shen Ruyan's way. If ordinary people dared to barge in, they would probably be minced into a bloody mist before they could land. At this moment, Shen Ruyan suddenly took out her token and pointed at a restriction in front of her. In an instant, a hazy halo flashed. The restrictions that were originally blocking their way immediately began to slowly dissipate. Shen Ruyan turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan and smiled. "Let's go." With that, she brought Jiang Chengxuan into the building ahead. Chapter 29, Special Exchange Right Level 3 Talisman. Soon, the two of them arrived in front of a middle-aged man. This person's name was Shen Beifei, and he was at the 8th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. He was also the only Foundation Establishment Elder Jiang Chengxuan had yet to meet with. When Shen Ruyan saw him, she immediately smiled and greeted him. "Third uncle." Shen Beifei, who was called Third Uncle by Shen Ruyan, nodded and looked at Jiang Chengxuan. "This must be Elder Jiang, right? It seems like you're here to exchange for treasures." Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded. "Yes, Third Uncle, please give us the list." When Shen Beifei heard that, he did not say anything. Soon, he handed 2 jade slips to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "The items that can be exchanged are all listed in these jade slips. If you want to exchange for anything, just tell me. I'll fetch them for you." Shen Ruyan smiled and said, "Thank you, Third Uncle." Then she started to read the contents of the jade slip with Jiang Chengxuan. This was the first time Jiang Chengxuan had seen the treasury of a Violet Palace realm immortal family. It had to be said that the treasures had really broadened his horizons. There were dozens of level 2 precious materials, medicinal pills, dharma artifacts, cultivation techniques, and talismans. There were even more things at level 1. With a cursory glance, Jiang Chengxuan estimated that there were at least hundreds or thousands of them. This was the foundation of a Violet Palace realm immortal family. It was definitely not something that an independent cultivator or a family at the Foundation Establishment realm could compare to. Of course, the main purpose of him following Shen Ruyan to the treasury vault of the Shen immortal family this time was not to choose these level 2 and level 1 items. Instead, he came for the items that could only be exchanged by people with a special right. He looked down. Jiang Chengxuan immediately saw 3 special items. There were 3 talismans. However, these 3 talismans were not level 1 and level 2 talismans, but level 3 talismans. As everyone knew, a level 3 item was equivalent to the Violet Palace realm. Such an item was not something Foundation Establishment cultivators like them could get their hands on at all. Only a Violet Palace realm immortal family like the Shen immortal family would provide such an item to the members within the family. Even so, under normal circumstances, the members of the Shen immortal family were not allowed to exchange for them. Only people who had been granted the special right could. Jiang Chengxuan was excited. No wonder Xing Wandao said that if he could get the special exchange right, he had to exchange for the special items no matter what. So this was the reason. To a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator, a level 3 item was indeed an ace in the hole. Especially on the battlefield with the demon beasts in the future, he could definitely use it to save his life. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan looked at the information on the 3 level 3 talismans carefully. These 3 level 3 talismans were all low-grade level 3 offensive talismans. They were the Flame Dragon Talisman, the Black Wind Talisman, and the Heavenly Saber Divine Slaying Talisman. As the name suggested, after using the Flame Dragon Talisman, a flame dragon would form to attack the enemy. Any enemy within the range of it would be instantly burned to ashes. The Black Wind Talisman was similar. It was also a large-scale attack. After using it, it would trigger a black wind. Any cultivator who was blown by this black wind, be it their flesh, blood, or soul, would be shattered in an instant. As for the Heavenly Saber Divine Slaying Talisman, it was a relatively rare talisman that targeted the divine sense of the enemy. After using it, the talisman would turn into a heavenly saber and slash into the enemy's sea of consciousness, destroying their divine sense. Without an equivalent defensive method, it was almost impossible to withstand it. Even a person at the Violet Palace realm would suffer greatly if he was hit by this talisman. Without question, Jiang Chengxuan wanted all 3 level 3 talismans. Unfortunately, with the family contribution points he had now, he could at most exchange for one of the talismans. The price of these 3 level 3 talismans was different. One was 13,500 contribution points, one was 14,000 contribution points, and another was 16,000 contribution points. Clearly, the Heavenly Saber Divine Slaying Talisman was more precious than the previous 2 talismans. Jiang Chengxuan was a little conflicted, not knowing which talisman to choose. After thinking about it, Jiang Chengxuan finally chose the most expensive Heavenly Saber Divine Slaying Talisman. It was because this talisman could threaten the Violet Palace realm cultivators. The power of the first 2 talismans could also pose a certain threat to the early-stage Violet Palace realm cultivators. However, with the speed of Foundation Establishment cultivators, it was very difficult for them to hit an enemy at the Violet Palace realm on the real battlefield. The Heavenly Saber Divine Slaying Talisman was different. Because it specialized in attacking divine sense, it was usually very difficult to notice. Even the Violet Palace realm cultivators had a high chance of being hit. After exchanging for this Heavenly Saber Divine Slaying Talisman, Jiang Chengxuan only had 4,000 contribution points left. According to his plan, he was going to exchange for a level 2 defensive Dharma artifact, a pill to break through to another level of the Foundation Establishment realm, and a low-grade level 2 spell. If there were enough points left, he also wanted exchange for some materials to make level 2 talismans. At this thought, Jiang Chengxuan moved his gaze back to the level 2 items. The first thing he saw was a low-grade level 2 defensive Dharma artifact. It was called the Purple Gold Spirit Shield. It was made of purple gold black iron and contained many defensive restrictions. After activation, it could form a 2-meter-long shield that was enough to withstand most of the attacks of the early-stage Foundation Establishment realm. Even if it was an attack from a mid-stage Foundation Establishment realm cultivator, the shield could still withstand it for a moment. It was considered a rather good low-grade level 2 defensive Dharma artifact. Moreover, it only cost 1,000 contribution points. In the outside world, it cost at least 1,400 spirit stones. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan immediately added this Dharma artifact to his exchanging list. Then he spent another 600 contribution points to exchange for a pill to break through from these level 2 items, called Upper Origin Pill. After that, he took a fancy to a low-grade level 2 spell called the Phantom Steps. It cost 700 contribution points. This spell was a movement-type spell. After successfully cultivating it, not only could it greatly increase one's speed, but it could also create 1 or 2 phantoms to confuse the enemy. Unless one had a corresponding method to break this spell, it was very difficult to distinguish between the real one and the phantoms in a short time. After exchanging for all that, he still had 1,700 family contribution points left. Just as Jiang Chengxuan was considering if he should exchange for something else, the system's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Chapter 30, Seclusion. Ding, an achievement mission has been issued. Host, please complete 30 drawings of level 2 talismans. Current progress, 18%. Hearing the system's voice, Jiang Chengxuan's first reaction was surprised, wondering why the system wasn't asking him to do it 100 times. However, his second reaction was heaving a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the system did not ask him to draw a level 2 talisman 100 times. With his current financial situation, he could not afford it. After all, the materials used to draw a level 2 talisman was way more expensive than the materials used to draw a level 1 talisman. If he used all the 1,700 family contribution points he had to buy materials to draw level 2 talismans, it would at most be enough for him to draw more than 40 level 2 talismans. Moreover, it was the cheapest level 2 talisman. However, if he only needed to draw 30 level 2 talismans, Jiang Chengxuan could afford it for the time being. Moreover, the system also counted the number of level 2 talismans he had drawn previously. He carefully checked the list. In the end, he chose a low-grade level 2 talisman brush worth 600 contribution points. After all, if he really planned to study level 2 talismans, a level 2 talisman brush was definitely necessary. As for the remaining 1,100 contribution points, Jiang Chengxuan decided to exchange them all for materials to draw level 2 talismans. This was enough to support him in completing the mission issued by the system. After he and Shen Ruyan told Shen Beifei the items they wanted to exchange, Shen Beifei left for a while before walking back with 2 storage bags. He handed the 2 storage bags to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and said, "These are the items you want to exchange for this time. Take a look." After taking the storage bag, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan checked it. After confirming that there was nothing missing, they nodded at Shen Beifei and thanked him. Soon, the two of them bade farewell to Shen Beifei. Outside, Shen Ruyan smiled at Jiang Chengxuan and said, "Elder Jiang, are you planning to return to the cave abode next?" "Yeah." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "What about you?" "I'm not going back too." Shen Ruyan smiled and said, "Then let's part ways here, meet up again when we have time." "All right, see you around." After a while, Jiang Chengxuan returned to his cave abode and immediately began to enter seclusion. Jiang Chengxuan had a total of 6 things to do during this seclusion. First, he had to use the upper origin pill to break through to the second level of the Foundation establishment realm. Next was refining the low-grade level 2 defensive Dharma artifact, the purple gold spirit shield, and the low-grade level 2 talisman brush. After that, he still had to cultivate the low-grade level 2 spell, phantom steps, and the breeze sword technique. That was already 5 things. As for the last one, it was to try to make level 2 talismans. Jiang Chengxuan roughly estimated it would take him 4 or 5 years to complete these 6 tasks. Time passed slowly. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had already used the upper origin pill to break through to the second level of the Foundation establishment realm. The total amount of true essence in his body had increased by more than 20%. In the past, he would use up all his true essence after casting the divine light of the Arctic twice, but now, that would not happen again. At least he would still have the strength left to escape. In addition, the strength of his true essence was comparable to a cultivator at the 4th level of the Foundation establishment realm. Coupled with the mid-grade level 2 purple flame sword and the breeze sword technique, he was already strong enough to make a 4th level Foundation establishment realm cultivator feel threatened. In the next half a year, Jiang Chengxuan spent most of his energy on refining the purple gold spirit shield and the level 2 talisman brush. The former could increase his self-protecting ability, and the latter could help him draw level 2 talismans better and quicker. They were all very valuable things. Jiang Chengxuan did not dare to be careless at all. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. More than half a year later, he successfully refined both. He did not waste any more time. After Jiang Chengxuan successfully refined the purple gold spirit shield and the level 2 talisman brush, he focused all his energy on comprehending and practicing the 2 level 2 spells, the phantom steps and the breeze sword technique. The breeze sword technique was not a problem because it was a reward from the system. When Jiang Chengxuan was cultivating it, he did not encounter too many difficulties. Half a year later, he successfully cultivated the breeze sword technique to the early stage. It had to be said that this sword technique rewarded by the system was indeed quite powerful, although the system did not say what grade this sword technique was. However, Jiang Chengxuan felt that the power of this early-stage breeze sword technique was already not inferior to some perfected low-grade level 2 spells. It could be seen that, when he cultivated this breeze sword technique to the late stage or even perfection stage, it would definitely be comparable to a high-grade level 2 spell. In comparison, the Phantom Steps gave Jiang Chengxuan a lot of headache. However, this was considered normal. As everyone knew, movement-type spells were often more difficult to practice than ordinary attack-type spells. In addition, his comprehension ability was not particularly outstanding. It was not a surprise that he would encounter trouble while cultivating the Phantom Steps. Fortunately, this situation did not last long. About half a year later, Jiang Chengxuan finally mastered the initial stage of the Phantom Steps. At this moment, his movement speed was clearly more than 20% faster than before. When he took a leap, a figure identical to him would appear behind him. Without the corresponding spell to break it, it would be really difficult to tell which was his real body and which was his phantom. Just like that, more than 2 years passed. Jiang Chengxuan still had no intention of coming out of seclusion. This was because he still had one last thing to do, which was to try to draw level 2 talismans and increase his talisman-making cultivation. This time, Jiang Chengxuan did not draw many different low-grade level 2 talismans like last time. This time, he focused on a low-grade level 2 talisman called the Rejuvenation Talisman. In fact, it was a healing talisman to treat the injuries. Among the many low-grade level 2 talismans, it was the easiest to get started with. He drew 4 or 5 pieces in a row, but all of them failed. Fortunately, the progress of drawing under his retina did not remain unchanged. Instead, it went from 18% to 35%. Chapter 31, Golden Armored Puppet Talisman. As expected, the system did not stipulate that he had to successfully draw the talisman. Even if the drawing failed, it did not affect his mission progress. More than half a year later, Jiang Chengxuan looked at the talisman in front of him and turned to ashes again, and couldn't help but sigh deeply. As expected, even the Rejuvenation Talisman, which was the easiest to learn, was not so easy at all in reality. No wonder among hundreds of professions in the cultivation world, alchemy, array formation, weapon refinement, and talisman making were the 4 professions that consumed the most resources. Fortunately, after more than half a year of hard work, the mission progress under his retina had already become 100%. Let's see what the reward the system can bring me this time. Ding! Just as this thought flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's mind, the system's voice sounded. Congratulations, host. You have completed the mission of drawing level 2 talismans 30 times and obtained the ability to draw a level 2 low-grade talisman called Golden Armored Puppet Talisman. Golden Armored Puppet Talisman, a one-time use puppet talisman. After using it, you can summon a low-grade level 2 Golden Armored Puppet to fight. Its strength is comparable to a first-level Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivator. It can last for 10 minutes. Jiang Chengxuan did not expect the system reward this time to be so awesome. Not only did the system raise his talisman-making mastery to low-grade level 2, but it also gave him the ability to draw the Golden Armored Puppet Talisman. He remembered very clearly that in the level 2 talisman collection, there was no record of a talisman called the Golden Armored Puppet Talisman. In other words, only the system had this talisman. Or rather, it was a special inheritance. Without special opportunities, it was impossible for the general public to obtain it. The only problem was that the cost of drawing such a talisman was extremely high, almost dozens of times higher than drawing an ordinary low-grade level 2 talisman. Moreover, the materials might not be especially easy to find. It was probably very difficult to find all the materials needed to make this talisman in an ordinary level 2 market. However, even so, it was still very worth it. This was because a golden armored puppet comparable to a first-level Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivator was already quite extraordinary. Especially in battle, it was enough to turn the situation around. It could completely be used as a trump card. It seemed like he had to come out of seclusion early. After all, he did not have the materials to draw the golden-armored puppet talisman. If he needed to make it, he had to go out and buy the materials. He wondered if there were enough materials in the Shen immortal family. He had to go out and take a look first. Fortunately, over the years, he had already accumulated more than 2,000 spirit stones from the Shen family. It was just enough to buy the materials to make a golden-armored puppet talisman. However, if he used spirit stones to buy those materials in the family, he would not be able to enjoy a discount. He would have to pay at the normal market price. However, at this moment, he did not care about that. The most important thing now was to think of a way to buy all the materials needed to make the golden-armored puppet talisman. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan stopped hesitating. After leaving his cave abode, he went straight to the salary hall to claim all the salary he had accumulated over the years. There were a total of 2,200 spirit stones. Then he went to the place where the Shen immortal family exchanged items and found that they didn't have the most important materials used to make the golden-armored puppet talisman, which were the extreme yellow jade and the heavenly spiritual dew. However, they had a lot of supplementary materials. Therefore, he spent 400 spirit stone to buy all the supplementary materials needed to make the golden-armored puppet talisman. After that, Jiang Chengxuan started to think about taking a trip. First of all, it was to buy the extreme yellow jade and the heavenly spiritual dew. Since the Shen immortal family didn't have any, he would go to the nearby immortal family like the Zhang immortal family or the market of the flowing cloud sect to take a look. He wanted to see if he could buy the extreme yellow jade and the heavenly spiritual dew in those two places. Moreover, the family contribution points and spirit stones he had were obviously in a shortage. On this trip, Jiang Chengxuan actually had the intention of earning some of them. In the Shen immortal family, the best way to earn the contribution points was naturally to do missions. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan went to the mission hall again. After selecting, he found a few missions to kill low-grade level 2 demon beasts. If he could complete it and hand over the corpses of those demon beasts to the Shen immortal family, Jiang Chengxuan should be able to obtain at least 3,000 to 4,000 contribution points. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan left the Shen immortal family's base and flew towards the market of the Zhang immortal family. Clearly, he planned to go to the nearby market under the jurisdiction of the Zhang immortal family to see if he could buy the extreme yellow jade and the heavenly spiritual dew there. If he couldn't, he would go to the market of the flowing cloud sect further away to take a look. If he still couldn't find the materials, he could only consider going back to the Ganyang market. However, this would undoubtedly waste a lot of his time. What Jiang Chengxuan did not notice was that the moment he left the Shen immortal family's base, two cold and vicious gazes were staring at him. "Brother Guo, are you sure we want to target him?" A burly man in black with a sinister gaze like a wolf stared at Jiang Chengxuan's back and asked a tall and thin man with a hooked nose beside him. When the tall and thin man called Brother Guo heard this, he couldn't help but sneer. "Brother Zhao, do you think there's a problem with us targeting him? Don't forget that the Shen immortal family is after all a Violet Palace realm family. Even if they have declined now, they are not people demonic independent cultivators like us can offend. Moreover, this time, we are just paid to do it. Since the other party did not specify who the target is, why don't we choose the weakest one? As far as I know, the person just now joined the Shen immortal family 4 or 5 years ago. It was at most 5 years since he broke through to the Foundation establishment realm. He should be the weakest among all the Foundation establishment cultivators in the Shen immortal family. Killing him will not be too risky. At the same time, we can get a generous reward. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone, why not?" "That's true." The burly man in black, who was called Brother Zhao, couldn't help but nod in agreement. Then, a ferocious glint flashed across his eyes. "In that case, let's follow that guy. We can't let him escape." Chapter 32, Fighting Demonic Cultivators. On the other side, after Jiang Chengxuan was a distance away from the Shen immortal family's base, he suddenly realized that he seemed to have been followed. This made him puzzled. He did not know who would follow him for no reason. He did not remember offending anyone after advancing to the Foundation establishment realm. Could it be that the Shen immortal family wanted to harm him? Impossible. If the Shen immortal family wanted to harm him, there was no need to go through so much trouble. Then there was the problem. Since it was not the Shen immortal family, who could it be? Jiang Chengxuan's eyes darkened. No matter who it was, the person following behind him like this was definitely not a good person. Instead of worrying about being attacked from behind, he might as well strike first. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan, who was flying in front, suddenly stopped and turned around. He said in a low voice, "The two of you have followed me for so long. Is there something you want?" However, there was no response for a long time. The thought that these people might be here to take his life made Jiang Chengxuan feel a chill run down his spine. This was an instinct he had developed after living in the cultivation world for many years. Subconsciously, he activated the purple gold spirit shield in secret. At the same time, he was ready to use the phantom steps. Shriek. As expected, with an ear-piercing sound, a black claw appeared above Jiang Chengxuan and was charging down towards his head. What is this? A demonic dharma artifact. They were actually demonic cultivators. Jiang Chengxuan's pupils suddenly constricted. He did not expect the people following behind him to be demonic cultivators. Without dwelling on the reason, he immediately activated phantom steps. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's figure suddenly disappeared in midair. When he appeared again, he was already 30 meters away and barely dodged the sneak attack of the black claw. Buzz. However, at this moment, a saber that was covered in a layer of black demonic chi slashed at his neck from behind. In an instant, a roar that sounded like a ghost echoed in his ears, making Jiang Chengxuan feel dizzy. This was the cry of a wraith. How many innocent mortals had the other party sacrificed to refine such a level 2 demonic saber? Jiang Chengxuan endured the discomfort in his head and immediately took out his defensive dharma artifact, the purple gold spirit shield. There was a bang. When the demonic saber hit the purple gold spiritual shield, dazzling sparks flew everywhere. However, it could not break through the defense of the purple gold spirit shield. What? A surprised voice suddenly sounded in the air. Then the tall and thin man and the burly man in black appeared beside Jiang Chengxuan and sandwiched him in between. Jiang Chengxuan looked up at the two of them and said with a dark expression, "I don't think I've offended the two of you, right? What exactly do you want?" Jiang Chengxuan was not that kind of righteous cultivator who swore to kill every demonic cultivator they saw. Although he also wanted to kill these combs of the cultivation world, the prerequisite was that he had to have the strength to absolutely crush them. Now was not the time yet. Just now, he had already analyzed the two demonic cultivators in front of him. The tall and thin man standing on his left was at the 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. The burly man in black standing on his right was at the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Both of their cultivation levels were higher than his. However, if he fought skillfully and didn't make any mistake, it was possible for him to kill them or one of them. But it was better to be safe than sorry. What if they had some trump card? What if they had some secret spells? What if there were more demonic cultivators rushing over? Therefore, it was better not to make a move if he didn't have to. However, the two people were clearly not here to make friends. The burly man in black sneered sinisterly. "Why does a dead person need to know so much? I advise you to surrender obediently. That way, you can avoid a lot of unnecessary pain. Otherwise, he." With that, he took out the black claw again. With a whoosh, a black claw appeared in the air, carrying an extremely ferocious and vicious aura as it suddenly grabbed at Jiang Chengxuan's chest. "I knew it." Jiang Chengxuan's eyes suddenly darkened. A killing intent was finally surging in his heart. Although he admitted that he was a very timid person who was afraid of trouble, his greatest wish was actually to stay in a place and cultivate in peace without being disturbed by anyone. However, such a simple wish had already become an extravagant wish in the current cultivation world. He didn't take the initiative to provoke anyone, and he didn't want to harm anyone, but there were always people who wanted to harm him. Now, these two fellows wanted to take his life for no reason. Did they really think he was a pushover? At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly disappeared into thin air on the spot. On the other side, the tall and thin man seemed to have sensed something. His expression immediately changed slightly and he shouted, "Be careful." Then the demonic saber in his hand suddenly slashed out. The cries of countless wraiths resounded in the sky. There was a tearing sound. Jiang Chengxuan's body was immediately cut into two. However, the body that was cut into two quickly turned into light and dissipated. The tall and thin man immediately had a bad feeling. Before he could shout at the burly man in black and remind him to be careful, a sword light like a breeze flashed behind the burly man in black. The expression of the burly man in black, who was still controlling the black claw to search for Jiang Chengxuan, froze. Then with a whoosh, his entire body was split into two from head to toe. It was the early-stage breeze sword technique. Coupled with the phantom steps he had mastered, Jiang Chengxuan managed to end the burly man's life in a single strike while he was not on guard. This was also the first person he had killed since advancing to the Foundation Establishment realm. It was also the first Foundation Establishment cultivator he had killed. However, when he looked up at the tall and thin man again, the tall and thin man had already scurried away in fear. Chapter 33, Execution. This surprised Jiang Chengxuan. As an evil and ferocious demonic cultivator, shouldn't he be even more ferocious after seeing his companion killed? Why did he run away just like that? It did not match the character of a demonic cultivator at all. Well, in fact, cunning and quick-wittedness were the true nature of these demonic cultivators. The ferociousness was just one of the fronts they put on. When they sensed danger and death, they would run on instinct. However, he had already made a move and had already made an enemy of the thin and tall man. If he let him escape, wouldn't he live on tenterhooks in the future? This was something Jiang Chengxuan would never allow. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan did not hesitate at all. After reaching out to catch the storage bag that fell from the burly man in black, he immediately took out the purple flame sword and chased after the tall and thin man. The strength of his true essence now was almost close to the strength of the mid-stage Foundation Establishment realm. In addition, the flying sword under his feet was a mid-grade level 2 flying sword, one grade higher than the saber of the tall and thin man. Therefore, a moment later, Jiang Chengxuan slowly caught up to the tall and thin man. Damn it, how can he be so fast? The tall and thin man, who was escaping in front, felt the sword light approaching from behind, and his heart immediately sank. Just now, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly killed the burly man in black, who was at the third level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Now, as the second-level Foundation Establishment realm cultivator, Jiang Chengxuan was about to catch up to him, who was at the fourth level of the Foundation Establishment realm. The tall and thin man knew that this could not continue. He had to think of a way to seize the initiative. At the thought of this, a trace of ruthlessness flashed across the tall and thin man's eyes. He suddenly stopped in his tracks. Immediately after, the demonic saber under his feet turned into a black stream of light and slashed at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan was more than happy to confront the tall and thin man head-on. The purple flame sword under Jiang Chengxuan's feet also turned into a purple sword light that collided with the black demonic saber. Boom! In an instant, purple and black light erupted. The terrifying sword chi and saber aura immediately dispersed the clouds in the sky. A wave of the aftershock hit a small hill not far away. In an instant, rocks rolled down and dust flew up into the sky. At this moment, a small flag suddenly appeared in the tall and thin man's hand. This flag was called the Blood Fiend's Soul Flag. It was a level 2 Dharma artifact refined by the tall and thin man with the blood of 300,000 mortals. Its power was already close to a mid-grade level 2 artifact. Most importantly, there was a level 2 evil spirit living in the flag that had reached the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Once it was summoned, this evil spirit would attack all the living beings that appeared in front of it, including the tall and thin man himself. Only when the tall and thin man really turned this Blood Fiend's Soul Flag into a mid-grade level 2 Dharma artifact would the evil spirit living in it have a certain level of intelligence and stop attacking its master. However, at this moment, since the tall and thin man took out this flag, he naturally had a way to dodge the evil spirit's attack. A grayish-brown bead suddenly appeared in his hand. The bead emitted an extremely strong death aura that actually covered the presence of the tall and thin man. As a result, to the evil spirit in the Blood Fiend's soul banner, only Jiang Chengxuan was hovering in the air. As expected, the evil spirit that rushed out of the Blood Fiend's soul flag immediately pounced at Jiang Chengxuan. HMPH. Seeing that the evil spirit was pouncing at him, Jiang Chengxuan took out the shield again. There was a series of creaks. Under the attack of the evil spirit, The spiritual light around Jiang Chengxuan's purple-gold spirit shield began to rapidly weaken. Moreover, at the edge of the shield, there were faint traces of blood-fiend aura lingering around it. This evil spirit actually had the ability to pollute Dharma artifacts. Jiang Chengxuan's eyes darkened. He knew that he could not continue like this. Otherwise, his purple-gold spirit shield would probably be damaged. At the thought of this, he immediately looked at the tall and thin man who was looking at him with a cold smile. Russell. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly took out dozens of golden light talismans that emitted a rich golden light. Although this talisman was only a high-grade level 1 talisman, it was extremely effective against ghosts and evil spirits. Even if they could not really do anything to the evil spirit, it was not a problem to restrain it for a while. In the golden light, Jiang Chengxuan quickly formed a seal and raised his hands like he was holding a bottle. Before the tall and thin man not far away could react, his vision was suddenly filled with endless white light. What is this? The tall and thin man was shocked. He wanted to escape, but the speed of the white light far exceeded his expectations. In just an instant, he was completely engulfed by the white light. Crag trek. The tall and thin man's body was quickly covered in a thick layer of frost. At the same time, the black demonic saber that had already lost its owner was immediately cut into two by Jiang Chengxuan's purple flame sword. Then, with a bang, the purple flame sword pierced through the tall and thin man's head and executed him in the air. After killing the tall and thin man, the purple flame sword did not stop. It made a spin in the air. With a bang, the purple flame sword pierced through the evil spirit's chest. Flames were the nemesis of the netherworld beings like evil spirits and ghosts. Moreover, Jiang Chengxuan's surging true essence also wrapped around the sword. Even though the evil spirit's strength was already comparable to the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, it was still severely injured in an instant. Jiang Chengxuan did not hold back at all. After severely injuring the evil spirit, he slashed the purple flame sword repeatedly. Along with the blood fiend's soul flag, the evil spirit was shattered and exploded in the air. Jiang Chengxuan raised his hand and grabbed the storage bag on the tall and thin man's corpse. He didn't linger around any longer. The purple flame sword instantly turned into a sword light and disappeared. A moment later, several streaks of light appeared nearby. When they saw the corpses of the tall and thin man and the burly man in black, their expressions changed drastically. It's old Gu and old Zhao. They actually died here. Hurry up. Go and report to the family head. Chapter 34, Gain. Jiang Chengxuan did not know what happened after he left. At this moment, he appeared in a secluded cave. After setting up an anti-detection array, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out his purple-gold spirit shield. A thin layer of blood mist was wrapped around the surface of his purple-gold spirit shield. He checked carefully. Fortunately, the purple-gold spirit shield was not very contaminated. He only needed to use his true essence to restore it. Putting away the purple-gold spirit shield, Jiang Chengxuan's gaze finally landed on the storage bags that belonged to the two demonic cultivators. There were obviously restrictions on both storage bags. Jiang Chengxuan checked and realized that it might take a few days to break the restrictions on the two storage bags. At this moment, he was not in a hurry. As he broke the restrictions on the two storage bags, he expelled the pollution on the purple-gold spirit shield. Almost a week later, the restrictions on the two storage bags had been completely removed by Jiang Chengxuan. He had also removed the pollution on the purple-gold spirit shield. However, Jiang Chengxuan continued to nurture the purple-gold spirit shield with his true essence. A few days later, the purple-gold spirit shield was completely restored. It was only at this moment that Jiang Chengxuan picked up the storage bag of the burly man in black. He probed with his divine sense. The first thing he saw was a large pile of spirit stones. There were a total of 1,874 of them. There were also some black bottles and jars, as well as some human skin and skulls. It was obvious at a glance that they were something good. Jiang Chengxuan was not interested in them at all. After taking them out, he burned them all. Then there were a few demonic cultivation techniques and some extremely cruel demonic spells. Jiang Chengxuan would not learn these things either and burned them all. Then it was the black claw that had been used to deal with him previously. This was a demonic artifact. A large amount of resentment and evil aura gathered inside. Jiang Chengxuan had never cultivated a demonic technique, so this artifact was useless to him. However, after refining it, he might be able to extract some of the materials used to forge this demonic artifact. It should be worth a lot of spirit stones. Finally, there was a talisman with a green aura. As soon as Jiang Chengxuan held it in his hand, his expression changed slightly. This was because he had already recognized the talisman in front of him. This talisman was called the Mystic Green Divine Wind Talisman. Once it was cast, it could release a terrifying wind that was enough to blow away a huge mountain. If a cultivator was blown by it, his flesh, blood, and bones would be instantly blown apart. Although this talisman was only mid-grade level 2, its power had really reached the peak of the attack power of a 6th-level Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. Even late-stage Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators had to be careful when facing this talisman. If they were not careful, they would most likely suffer. Jiang Chengxuan immediately felt a lingering fear. This talisman should be a trump card prepared by the burly man in black to deal with him. Fortunately, he used all his might to kill that burly man in the first place. Otherwise, the outcome of the previous battle might be completely different. Therefore, it showed that recklessness was dangerous. Even when facing people of a lower realm than you, you had to be 100% careful. Otherwise, you might die miserably. As he thought, Jiang Chengxuan opened the tall and thin man's storage bag. The first thing he saw was also a large pile of spirit stones. This time there were even more, reaching 2,300 spirit stones. In total, the two of them provided Jiang Chengxuan with more than 4,100 spirit stones. With this amount of spirit stones, it was not a problem for him to buy the materials to make the golden-armored puppet talisman. At first, Jiang Chengxuan was a little worried that he might not have enough spirit stones. But now, with the amount of spirit stones he had, not to mention buying one set of materials to make the golden-armored puppet talisman, even 2 sets and 3 sets were not a problem. Just like the burly man in black, this tall and thin man also had a large number of things used by demonic cultivators in his storage bag. Jiang Chengxuan cleaned them all up. On the other hand, because of the previous battle, the demonic saber and the blood fiend's soul flag were both greatly damaged. Even if he refined it, he would probably not be able to extract anything valuable. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan did not take it. In the end, Jiang Chengxuan found another blue stone the size of a fist. There seemed to be blue liquid flowing inside. This thing was called the water-glazed stone. It was a material for refining level 2 water element dharma artifacts. It was worth at least 1,500 spirit stones. If there was a chance, he could sell it. Finally, Jiang Chengxuan finished counting the gains from killing the 2 Foundation Establishment Realm demonic cultivators. It had to be said that Jiang Chengxuan had gained a lot this time. It had to be known that, under normal circumstances, demonic cultivators would not have anything especially valuable on them. More than 4,000 spirit stones, a fist-sized water-glazed stone, and a mystic green divine wind talisman were already quite a harvest. The only thing that made Jiang Chengxuan a little unhappy was that he did not find any information about their identities in their storage bags. He still didn't know why the two of them wanted to kill him. Forget it, when he returned to the Shen immortal family, he would find someone to ask. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan did not continue to stay in the cave. After casually removing the array he had set up, he flew out. A few days later, in a large market under the jurisdiction of the Zhang immortal family, Jiang Chengxuan searched a few shops in a row, but he could not find the extreme yellow jade and heavenly spiritual dew he wanted. This disappointed him greatly. It seemed that it was probably impossible to buy extreme yellow jade and heavenly spiritual dew from these level 2 markets. He then arrived at the last shop called Zhang's Treasury House. This was a shop opened by the Zhang immortal family. Jiang Chengxuan had already made up his mind. If he could not find extreme yellow jade and heavenly spiritual dew here, he would go straight to the Ganyang market. As soon as he walked into the treasure house, a beautiful female cultivator welcomed him. However, when she sensed the faint aura of the Foundation Establishment Realm from Jiang Chengxuan, her expression immediately changed. She quickly said politely to Jiang Chengxuan, "Senior, what do you want to buy? I'll get the manager over to talk to you now." Jiang Chengxuan nodded slightly. Seeing this, the beautiful female cultivator immediately asked someone to serve tea to Jiang Chengxuan. Then, she turned around and went upstairs to inform the manager. Chapter 35. Obtaining extreme yellow jade and meeting an acquaintance. After a while, a middle-aged man walked down from upstairs. This person was the manager of this treasure house. His name was Xianxia, and he was at the perfect stage of the qi refinement realm. When he saw Jiang Chengxuan, he immediately said enthusiastically, "Senior, thank you for coming. I apologize for not coming out to welcome you. Please forgive me." "Senior, are you visiting Zhang's treasure house to buy something?" Jiang Chengxuan went straight to the point. "I want a piece of level 2 extreme yellow jade and a bottle of level 2 heavenly spiritual dew. Do you have it?" Level 2 extreme yellow jade and level 2 heavenly spiritual dew. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Zhang Changyan was stunned for a moment before saying with a smile, "What a coincidence. Yesterday we obtained a level 2 extreme yellow jade. However, I'm really sorry, senior. We really don't have heavenly spiritual dew." Jiang Chengxuan was delighted. He really did not expect that there would really be extreme yellow jade for sale in Zhang's treasury house. Unfortunately, they didn't have heavenly spiritual dew. Otherwise, he could save himself a lot of trouble. Thinking of this, Jiang Chengxuan immediately said to Zhang Changyan, "Then please show me the level 2 extreme yellow jade." Zhang Changyan did not refuse. After saying wait a moment to Jiang Chengxuan, he turned around and went upstairs. Not long after, he walked down with a jade box. Zhang Changyan smiled as he opened the jade box in his hand. "Senior, this is the level 2 extreme yellow jade you wanted. You can take a closer look." In the jade box, there was a yellow jade the size of a goose egg. If one looked carefully, they could feel an aura as thick as the earth from this yellow jade. "Can I pick it up and take a look?" Jiang Chengxuan asked Zhang Changyan. Zhang Changyan hesitated for a moment before nodding with a smile. "Sure, senior, please go ahead." In this treasure house, he was really not worried that Jiang Chengxuan would do anything overboard. This treasure house was protected by a level 2 array formation that even foundation establishment cultivators couldn't break, not to mention the fact that this market was guarded by foundation establishment elders from the Zhang immortal family. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan reached out and picked up the extreme yellow jade. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan felt his wrist sink uncontrollably. It was as if he was holding something weighing 500 to 600 kilograms. With this weight, Jiang Chengxuan knew that the manager of the treasure house was not lying to him. The extreme yellow jade in his hand was indeed genuine. Putting the extreme yellow jade back into the jade box, Jiang Chengxuan looked at Zhang Changyan and nodded with a satisfied smile. "It's indeed a level 2 extreme yellow jade. I wonder how much it costs." "Senior, since you really want." Zhang Changyan smiled and said, "Then I can sell it to you for 1,000 spirit stones. In addition, I can also give you some information about where you can get heavenly spiritual dew." When he heard Zhang Changyan's words, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes immediately lit up and he nodded. "Deal." As he spoke, he handed a storage bag containing 1,000 spirit stones to Zhang Changyan. Zhang Changyan took the storage bag and checked it. Seeing that the amount of spirit stones inside was right, he pushed the jade box containing the extreme yellow jade to Jiang Chengxuan and smiled. "This extreme yellow jade is yours now, senior." After a pause, Zhang Changyan continued. "Senior, I believe you know the flowing cloud sect not far from our market, right?" Without waiting for Jiang Chengxuan to answer, Zhang Changyan went on. "As far as I know, in 5 days, there will be a foundation establishment cultivators trade fair in the market under the jurisdiction of the flowing cloud sect. Senior, you can go there to take a look. Perhaps you can find the heavenly spiritual dew you want." A foundation establishment, cultivators trade fair held by the flowing cloud sect. He could indeed go over and take a look. Generally speaking, this kind of foundation establishment cultivators trade fair was mostly held once every 10 years. At least, this was the case for the Shen immortal family. Speaking of which, in the years he had stayed in the Shen immortal family, he had never seen them hold a trade fair. After that, he did not stay in the market for long. Almost a day later, Jiang Chengxuan arrived at a market under the jurisdiction of the flowing cloud sect. It was also the market where the foundation establishment cultivators trade fair would be held in 5 days. Of course, there were only 4 days left. Since he was already here, Jiang Chengxuan didn't waste time. He went to a few shops here to ask if there was any heavenly spiritual dew for sale. What if he was lucky enough to find the heavenly spiritual dew in those shops? However, it turned out that his luck was not that good. After asking around, he found out that none of the largest shops had it. Helpless, Jiang Chengxuan could only wait for the trade fair in 4 days. He hoped that the trade fair would not disappoint him. Otherwise, he would inevitably have to make a trip to the Ganyang market. In that case, it would take him at least 2 months to make a round trip. If anything happened along the way, it was possible for this trip to take half a year. 4 days passed quickly. On this day, Jiang Chengxuan came to a place called the Scarlet Cloud Pavilion. This was the venue of the trade fair. As soon as he arrived, a familiar voice suddenly sounded in his ear. "Hey, are you fellow Taoist Jiang?" Jiang Chengxuan turned around and saw a beautiful female cultivator in a green dress looking at him in surprise. Jiang Chengxuan immediately recognized her. The beautiful foundation establishment female cultivator who appeared in front of him was none other than the elder of the Sunset sect, Qiu Yishui, who had tried to recruit him at the Ganyang market many years ago. At this moment, there was another beautiful female cultivator in a blue dress beside her. "It's really you, fellow Taoist Jiang." A smile immediately appeared on Qiu Yishui's face. She walked up to Jiang Chengxuan with the female cultivator in the blue dress and took the initiative to speak. "Long time no see. I didn't expect to see fellow Taoist Jiang at the Scarlet Cloud Trade Fair today. How have you been doing all these years, fellow Taoist Jiang?" "Yes, thank you for your concern, fellow Taoist Qiu. I've been doing well." Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded at Qiu Yishui. As he spoke, his gaze couldn't help but land on the female cultivator in blue beside Qiu Yishui. Seeing this, Qiu Yishui immediately took the initiative to introduce. "By the way, fellow Taoist Jiang, let me introduce you. This is Elder Yan Junlin from our Sunset Cloud sect." As she spoke, Qiu Yishui looked at Yan Junlin and smiled. "Junlin, this is fellow Taoist Jiang Chengxuan I told you about before." Chapter 36, Trade Fair begins. "Hello, fellow Taoist Jiang." Hearing Qiu Yishui's introduction, Yan Junlin immediately smiled and greeted Jiang Chengxuan. She displayed no hostility towards Jiang Chengxuan for not choosing to join my Sunset sect back then or ignored him intentionally. People who could cultivate to the foundation establishment realm were not so foolish as to make enemies of themselves for no reason. Of course, there was no lack of such people. However, it was a minority after all. At least so far, Jiang Chengxuan had never encountered one. After they exchanged pleasantries, Qiu Yishui suddenly looked ahead. There, a middle-aged man in the uniform of an elder of the Flowing Cloud sect slowly walked up the platform. A trace of surprise flashed across Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. This was because the middle-aged man who walked up the platform at this moment was none other than Wan Donglai, the elder of the Flowing Cloud sect who tried to recruit him back then. At this moment, he looked at everyone and smiled. "I'm Wan Donglai, the elder of the Flowing Cloud sect. It's about time. Let's begin this trade fair." After a pause, he continued. "Since it's a trade fair held by the Flowing Cloud sect, I'll take the lead." With that, Wan Donglai took out a few things from his body. A bottle of pills, a Dharma artifact in a fiery red stone the size of a palm. He showed these 3 things to everyone. The bottle contained profound essence pills. It was specially used by late-stage foundation establishment realm cultivators to help them quickly increase their true essence and cultivation. As for the Dharma artifact, it was a high-grade level 2 spear. It was called the True Martial Tei Spear. It was made of high-grade level 2 precious material, Tei gold and crystal iron. It was inlaid with many offensive runes and was especially suitable for close combat type cultivators. As for the last item, it was a high-grade level 2 treasure called True Fire Heaven Crystal. It could help cultivators quickly comprehend high-grade level 2 fire element spells, could also be used to set up high-grade level 2 attack arrays, and could also be used to forge high-grade level 2 fire element artifacts. It was a relatively precious material. It had to be said that the 3 items Wan Donglai took out were very rare. The eyes of many cultivators lit up. They were extremely tempted. At this moment, Wan Donglai smiled and said, "A bottle of profound essence pills, a high-grade level 2 offensive Dharma artifact, and a true fire heaven crystal. I don't think I need to say anything about the value of these 3 things. Here, I want to use them to exchange for level 2 wood and earth element materials of the same quality or wind, and lightning element materials of the same quality." Of course, if it's a wind and lightning element material of the same quality, we can discuss the price. Hearing Juan Donglai's conditions, many cultivators could not help but look disappointed. Obviously, they did not have the things Juan Donglai mentioned. However, there was no lack of cultivators present who had these precious materials. Soon, a female cultivator at the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm took out a high-grade level 2 earth element material and exchanged it with Juan Donglai. Then, two other late-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivators used wood element materials to exchange for the other two items from Juan Donglai. Juan Donglai was obviously not satisfied. In fact, what he hoped to obtain the most this time was the materials with the wind and lightning elements. However, he knew very well that precious materials with special elements like wind and lightning were hard to come back, let alone high-grade level 2 ones. Soon, Juan Donglai walked off the stage. Immediately, a 9th-level Foundation establishment realm cultivator walked up. He took out a cloud-like thing from his body and said to everyone, "Everyone, this item is called Dream Smoke. It's the main material for setting up a high-grade level 2 illusion array, and it's also the main material for refining some special artifacts. I think the price of this item is self-evident. I just want to exchange it for a purple-violet pill or a treasure that can help one combat inner demons." Purple-violet pill. Hearing this name, Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. If he remembered correctly, purple-violet pill seemed to be a pill that could help cultivators protect their Dao heart and soul when they failed to break through to the Violet Palace realm. Although it didn't increase the success rate of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm, after taking it, at least your safety could be guaranteed. As long as you didn't die and recuperated well for 8 to 10 years, you would have a chance to make a second attempt to break through to the Violet Palace realm. When Qiu Yishui, who was beside Jiang Chengxuan, heard the item the 9th-level Foundation establishment realm cultivator wanted, she shook her head. Dream Smoke is not enough to exchange a purple-violet pill. It seems like this fellow Taoist wants to try to break through to the Violet Palace realm in the near future. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but turn to look at her and ask, "Fellow Taoist Qiu, why does that fellow Taoist want a treasure that can help him combat his inner demons?" Yan Junlin looked over and said, "Don't you know why?" Jiang Chengxuan did not feel embarrassed at all. Hearing that, he shook his head. "I really don't know. After all, fellow Taoist Qiu, as you know, it's only been 4 or 5 years since I broke through to the Foundation establishment realm." Qiu Yishui nodded in understanding. "That's true." She said, "If we Foundation establishment cultivators want to break through to the Violet Palace realm, the most important step is to use the power of our divine souls to open the Nuan Palace and turn true essence into magic power. In this process, one will experience all kinds of tribulations. The most dangerous one is the inner demons. At that time you will feel guilty, regretful, sad, angry, happy, or a mixture of all of the emotions. At that moment, if you cannot protect your Tao heart, there is a high chance that you will be devoured by these emotions. At that time, your true essence will go berserk, your cultivation will backfire, and your divine soul will be destroyed. That's why we need external help." Jiang Chengxuan nodded in realization. "I see." At this moment, seeing that no one came up to exchange with him for what he wanted after a long time, the 9th-level Foundation establishment realm cultivator knew that this exchange would probably not succeed. In the end, he left the stage in disappointment. Chapter 37. Sudden Change in the Shen Immortal Family. Then many cultivators went on stage one after another. They wanted to exchange for different things. Some wanted to exchange pills, some wanted to exchange Dharma artifacts, some wanted to exchange cultivation techniques, some wanted to exchange spiritual herbs, and so on. In the end, even Qiu Yishui and Yan Junlin walked up the stage one after another. On the other hand, because it was his first time here and his cultivation was not outstanding, Jiang Chengxuan was put in the back of the line. When he walked on stage, the number of people present was obviously much fewer than before. Obviously, after exchanging the items they wanted, those people left early. Looking at the people present, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out the water-glazed stone he had obtained from the demonic cultivator and said, "This water-glazed stone is the main material for refining a level 2 water element Dharma artifact. I want to use it to exchange for 2 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew. Of course, if you only have 1 bottle, you need to give me 500 spirit stones." Seeing what Jiang Chengxuan took out, some people's eyes lit up. However, when they heard Jiang Chengxuan's desired item, many people couldn't help but frown. It was because very few people would collect heavenly spiritual dew. Most of the people present did not have it. However, at this moment, Wan Donglai, the host of this trade fair, smiled and said to Jiang Chengxuan, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, long time no see. I happen to have 2 bottles of the heavenly spiritual dew. However, if I use 2 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew to exchange for your water-glazed stone, I'm afraid you have to give me some more spirit stones." Hearing Wan Donglai's words, Jiang Chengxuan, who was originally a little disappointed, was immediately excited. He immediately nodded at Wan Donglai and said, "No problem. 2 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew for this water-glazed stone. I'll give you another 500 spirit stones." "Deal." Wan Donglai immediately took out 2 jade bottles from his body and handed them to Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan took it and looked at it. A satisfied smile immediately appeared on his face. When the trade between the 2 sides ended, it was also about time for this trade fair to end. Qiu Yishui glanced at Jiang Chengxuan and smiled. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, I wonder if you have any plans next. Do you want to go to Sunset Sect with me?" Hearing that, Jiang Chengxuan immediately shook his head with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Qiu, thank you for your invitation, but I still have something important to do. I have to go back first. Next time, when I have time, I'll definitely visit your sect." "All right then." Qiu Yishui had clearly expected Jiang Chengxuan's rejection. The 2 of them exchanged communication Jade tokens and bade farewell. Originally, Jiang Chengxuan wanted to go to the other markets under the jurisdiction of the Flowing Cloud sect to see if there was anything worth buying. However, at this moment, the Shen immortal family sent him an urgent message, asking him and the other Foundation Establishment Realm elders outside to return to splendid Jade Mountain immediately. Upon receiving this message, Jiang Chengxuan's heart skipped a beat. He instinctively felt that something might have happened to the Shen immortal family. He did not dare to delay. After leaving the market, he immediately took out the mid-grade level 2 purple flame sword and rushed towards splendid Jade Mountain as quickly as possible. 2 days later, Jiang Chengxuan's sword light landed on splendid Jade Mountain. In an instant, he sensed that something was wrong. A tense atmosphere permeated the entire splendid Jade Mountain. What exactly was going on? Just as Jiang Chengxuan was puzzled and confused, a familiar voice suddenly came from behind him. "Elder Jiang." Jiang Chengxuan turned around. Shen Ruyan, who was dressed in purple, was walking towards him from afar. However, today, Shen Ruyan, who usually had a smile on her face, looked especially serious. Jiang Chengxuan even saw suppressed anger in her eyes. "Elder Ruyan." Jiang Chengxuan greeted her and cut to the chase. "Did something happen? Why are we summoned back so suddenly?" "Something did happen," Shen Ruyan nodded. "Not long ago, demonic cultivators ambushed the 1,000 Willow Market under the jurisdiction of the Shen immortal family. At that time, cousin Rushwang, who was in charge of guarding the market, was seriously injured. Dozens of our cultivators died there." "What?" When he heard this news, Jiang Chengxuan was shocked. He knew that the 1,000 Willow Market Shen Ruyan was talking about was the largest level 2 market under the Shen immortal family. It had roughly 30% of the Shen immortal family's assets. Now that Shen Rushwang, a level 2 alchemist, was seriously injured, and so many cultivators of the Shen family were killed, wouldn't it mean that the 1,000 Willow Market was already? As if knowing what Jiang Chengxuan wanted to ask, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but nod with difficulty. "That's right, 1,000 Willow Market has indeed suffered an unprecedented blow. Many industries were destroyed. If not for the level 3 talisman left for her by our ancestor, she would probably be dead by now. Moreover," at this point, Shen Ruyan took a deep breath before continuing to say to Jiang Chengxuan, "A city with 800,000 mortals under the Shen immortal family was also attacked by those demonic cultivators. Unfortunately, they were not as lucky as my cousin. The 800,000 mortals in the city and all the cultivators guarding it were killed. None of them survived." Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but gasp. He felt unprecedentedly suffocated. Jiang Chengxuan could not imagine such a scene. 800,000 people were gone just like that. This was a shock he had never felt in the past 100 years. This was also the first time he truly felt how ruthless and vicious those demonic cultivators were. In their eyes, those mortals were like cattle to be slaughtered at any time. Of course, other than the two reasons I mentioned, there's also the most important reason why the family summoned you back. Shen Ruyan suddenly took a deep breath and looked at Jiang Chengxuan. That's another goal those demonic cultivators are pursuing. They are in charge of killing Foundation Establishment Realm elders like you who are outside. Chapter 38, The Cause of the Situation. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan was taken aback. He suddenly remembered the two demonic cultivators he met after leaving the Shen immortal family. Could it be that the two people back then were also in charge of killing the elders of the Shen immortal family? If that was the case, then it made sense why he was suddenly attacked. Yes, Elder Jiang, what's wrong? Looking at Jiang Chengxuan's abnormal reaction, Shen Ruyan asked in confusion. Jiang Chengxuan did not hide anything, and immediately told her about how he was attacked by two demonic cultivators after leaving the Shen immortal family. When Shen Ruyan heard that, her expression immediately changed. Elder Jiang, is what you said true? Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Elder Ruyan, take a look at this. As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan took out the sharp claw Dharma artifact that the burly man in black used back then. Then he took out some items from the tall and thin man's storage bag. These are... Shen Ruyan's eyes narrowed. She reached out and picked up these items to check. After a while, she took a deep breath and nodded. These are indeed things used by those demonic cultivators. If I remember correctly, this claw Dharma artifact should be the artifact used by someone called Zhao Gishu. As for these items, Shen Ruyan recalled for a moment and seemed to have thought of something. They should be used to refine some kind of evil spirit. Coupled with your description of that person, I'm certain that it's very likely a guy called Gu Ziling. His famous Dharma artifacts are a low-grade level 2 demonic saber and a flag that can summon evil spirits. At this point, Shen Ruyan seemed to have realized something and couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan in surprise. Elder Jiang, did you just say that they both died at your hands? Jiang Chengxuan nodded. In this matter, he felt that there was nothing to hide, especially at a moment like this. However, in the end, he still added something. I was just lucky. If they were more careful, the outcome might have been different. He was not being humble. The reason why Jiang Chengxuan could kill those two people was also very much related to their underestimation of the enemy at the beginning. However, no matter what, the fact that he could kill a 3rd and 4th level Foundation Establishment demonic cultivator proved his strength. Although Shen Ruyan did not know the exact situation at that time, she could imagine the danger it contained. Hearing that, she immediately heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, Elder Jiang, you came back unscathed, otherwise I..." Shen Ruyan did not say the rest, but Jiang Chengxuan clearly felt a trace of coldness from her. This made him slightly stunned, but at the same time, knowing that someone would avenge him if he was harmed, he felt warm. After that, the two of them wasted no time. Soon, they headed to the main peak of splendid Jade Mountain. At this moment, several elders of the Shen immortal family had already gathered here. Among them were Xingwando, Sukayan, and Shen Changyan. Their expressions were very solemn. Clearly, what happened made these elders of the Shen immortal family extremely angry. At this moment, when they saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan coming over, they nodded at the two of them as a form of greeting. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were obviously not in the mood to exchange pleasantries. They found a place and sat down. Not long after, Shen Dayuming, the current head of the Shen family, flew over on a beam of light. When he walked in, everyone saw that he was holding a bloody head in his hand. The eyes of the head were wide open, and it looked like he had died with his eyes open. This is... Everyone couldn't help but look shocked. Shen Dayuming glanced at everyone and said coldly, "This head belongs to Chen Jixiao, a demonic cultivator at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. He's also one of the main culprits who attacked Thousand Willow Market this time." "It's him." Hearing Shen Dayuming's words, everyone present immediately reacted. At the same time, they were a little surprised. They didn't expect Chen Jixiao, a demonic cultivator at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm, was actually killed by the head of the Shen immortal family. From the looks of it, the family head of the Shen immortal family was probably not far from entering the Violet Palace realm. Shen Dayuming casually threw Chen Jixiao's head to the ground and said to everyone, "In a while, I'll use him to pay tribute to our fellow cultivators who died in this battle, as well as the 800,000 innocent mortals who were harmed by them. Now let's discuss this matter and the subsequent arrangements." As he spoke, Shen Daoming's gaze swept across everyone. To be honest, what happened to the Shen immortal family this time is actually a revenge by those demonic cultivators. Wait, what? Hearing Shen Daoming's words, the people present could not help but look puzzled. Obviously, they did not know what Shen Daoming meant by revenge. Shen Daoming continued, "More than 100 years ago, the current ancestor of the Shen immortal family led the cultivators of the Shen immortal family to destroy a stronghold of demonic cultivators. In that incident, our ancestor killed a demonic cultivator at the Violet Palace realm at that time, and slaughtered dozens of demonic cultivators at the Foundation Establishment realm. However, because there were a few demonic cultivators who happened to be away, they managed to escape death. What happened to the Shen immortal family this time was done by those who survived back then. Most importantly, one of them had even broken through to the Violet Palace realm not long ago. Fortunately, we set up an array in Thousand Willow Market. Otherwise, the losses of the Shen immortal family would probably be far greater than this." After hearing Shen Daoming's words, even Xianxia, Su Kaiyan, and the experienced elders of the Shen immortal family couldn't help but look a little surprised. Clearly, they did not know that there was actually such a reason behind this attack. Jiang Chengxuan thought to himself that it was really a close call. Fortunately, the ones who targeted him that day were only 2 demonic cultivators at the 3rd or 4th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. If 2 late-stage Foundation Establishment realm demonic cultivators came after him, he would probably be in danger. At this moment, Xingwando and Su Kaiyan looked at Shen Daoming and could not help but ask, "Brother Daoming, I wonder how that demonic cultivator at the Violet Palace realm is doing now." Chapter 39, The Ancestor of the Shen Family I. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Changnian also looked at Shen Daoming. They all wanted to know the exact situation regarding the Violet Palace realm demonic cultivator. However, before Shen Daoming could answer, a green-robed middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Everyone present, including Shen Daoming, was shocked to see him. Shen Daoming, Shen Ruyan, and the others quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, Ancestor." "Ancestor?" Jiang Chengxuan was stunned. He did not expect the green-robed middle-aged man, who suddenly appeared in front of them, to be the Violet Palace realm cultivator of the Shen immortal family. This was also the first time he had seen a person at the Violet Palace realm since he began cultivation. The first feeling he had was that Violet Palace realm cultivators were powerful and unfathomable. In front of him, Jiang Chengxuan felt like he was an ant on the ground and could die at any time. At this moment, Shen Yuanlong, the ancestor of the Shen family, nodded at everyone. "Although I didn't kill that Violet Palace realm demonic cultivator, I severely injured him. It should take him at least 70 years to recover. You don't have to worry about him anymore. As for the Qi Refinement and Foundation Establishment realm demonic cultivators who escaped, you need to track them down and try to get rid of them in the shortest time possible." As he spoke, Shen Yuanlong suddenly turned to Jiang Chengxuan, who was in the crowd, and a faint smile suddenly appeared on his face. "You're Jiang Chengxuan, right? I heard that you killed 2 Foundation Establishment realm demonic cultivators. Not bad, not bad." As he spoke, a high-grade level 2 flying sword appeared in his hand, and he handed it to Jiang Chengxuan. "This is a level 2 Dharma artifact I used when I was in the Foundation Establishment realm back then. Take it as a reward I give you for killing 2 Foundation Establishment realm demonic cultivators." Looking at the high-grade level 2 flying sword handed over by Shen Yuanlong, Jiang Chengxuan was stunned. He did not understand why the ancestors of the Shen family would suddenly focus on him. Moreover, how did he know that he had killed 2 Foundation Establishment realm demonic cultivators? Could it be that he heard his conversation with Shen Ruyan just now? It was not impossible. However, was there a need to specially reward him, a high-grade level 2 flying sword, for such a thing? Speaking of which, Shen Daoming, who killed a 9th-level Foundation Establishment realm demonic cultivator, should have contributed more than him, right? If he wanted to reward anyone, this flying sword should be given to Shen Daoming, not Jiang Chengxuan. However, Shen Yuanlong clearly had no intention of explaining. After handing the level 2 flying sword to Jiang Chengxuan, he sent a voice transmission to Shen Daoming, asking him to take Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to go to his place later. Then, he turned into a stream of light and instantly disappeared from everyone's sight. Seeing this, Xing Wandao, Su Kaiyan, and Shen Changnian couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan. They were obviously very surprised. They were surprised by the fact that Jiang Chengxuan had killed 2 Foundation Establishment Realm demonic cultivators, and they were also surprised by what Shen Yuanlong did just now. Even Shen Daoming and Shen Ruyan could not figure out why their ancestors did this. This made Jiang Chengxuan a little nervous. He felt that that ancestor was putting him on the spot intentionally. However, he could not decline it. At this moment, he handed the level 2 flying sword in his hand to Shen Daoming and forced a smile. "Family head, you can take this Dharma artifact. I really don't deserve it." However, Shen Daoming shook his head seriously. "Elder Jiang, don't. Since it's a reward from ancestors, just take it, don't feel pressured." Hearing Shen Daoming say that, Jiang Chengxue could only put away this high-grade level 2 flying sword for the time being. It was only at this moment that Shen Daoming looked at everyone again and said, "Everyone, I think you all heard what the ancestors said just now. Next, the most important thing is to track down all the Qi refinement and Foundation Establishment Realm demonic cultivators who have escaped and are hiding. Then, we'll kill them one by one." At this moment, Elder Daifeng and Elder Beifei are guarding the level 2 spiritual vein and the level 2 market. Although their main mission this time is not to participate in our operation, if necessary, they will come to our aid. As for cousin Rushwang, because she's seriously injured and hasn't recovered, she won't participate in our operation this time. At this point, Shen Daoming paused for a moment before continuing. "Therefore, we will be in charge of this mission." With that, Shen Daoming took out a map and pointed at an area. "Next, I'll be in charge of searching and sweeping the largest area in the north." Then he pointed at a few more areas. "Elder Xing will be in charge of this place in the south, and Elder Su is in charge of this place in the east. Sixth uncle, you'll be in charge of this place in the west. How about that?" As he spoke, Shen Daoming looked at Shen Changnian. Shen Changnian smiled and nodded. "I have no problem with that." Shen Daoming nodded. Finally, he looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and said, "As for Elder Jiang and you, Ruyan, you'll be in charge of searching Thousand Willow Market together. Once you find anything strange, send back a signal immediately." After hearing Shen Daoming's arrangements, everyone present nodded. After a while, they left. However, just as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were about to leave together, Shen Daoming stopped them. "Elder Jiang, Ruyan, wait a moment." "Wait what?" Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan turned around in confusion. Shen Daoming said, "Before that, follow me to Huowu Peak. Just now, Ancestor sent a voice transmission to me and asked me to bring you to him." "To Huowu Peak." Hearing Shen Daoming's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were stunned. Clearly, they did not expect the Ancestor to ask them to go over. "Brother, did Ancestor say what it's about?" Shen Ruyan could not help but ask. However, Shen Daoming smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I'm not too sure about that. The Ancestor didn't say, but since it's his request, we must follow." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. The two of them did not say anything else, and immediately followed Shen Daoming to Huowu Peak where Shen Yuanlong was. Chapter 40. The Ancestor of the Shen Family II. Huowu Peak. This was the place where the Shen family's ancestor, Shen Yuanlong, cultivated. At this moment, he was sitting at a jade table. Opposite him sat a woman in a light yellow dress. She was beautiful, but she had white hair. Shen Yuanlong pushed a cup of tea to the white-haired woman and slowly said, "Sister, I've already done as you said just now." After a pause, a trace of seriousness appeared on Shen Yuanlong's face. He continued, "Did you see something? Actually, you don't have to do this. You've sacrificed enough over the years. I'm worried that if you continue like this, your lifespan will probably—" Shen Yuanlong did not say the rest. The white-haired woman smiled and said, "It's fine, brother. Even if I stop calculating, I'm afraid I won't have much time left." Shen Yuanlong's expression darkened. The white-haired woman continued, "I indeed saw something, which is why I specially rushed over from the Ganyang sect to confirm my guess. From the looks of it, what I saw should not be wrong. The hope of our Shen family's rise in the future is very likely to fall on the two of them." However, I still have to see them personally to know the details. It turned out that the white-haired woman sitting opposite Shen Yuanlong was none other than his sister, Shen Mengsu. Currently, she was a Violet Palace Realm Elder of the Ganyang sect, and the Tao companion of a Golden Core Grand Elder. When Shen Yuanlong heard Shen Mengsu's words, he couldn't help but ask, "Is there anything I need to do from now on?" Shen Mengsu shook her head. "You don't have to specially do anything. You just have to help them when help is needed. Other than that, you can create more opportunities for them to be together in the future. When the time is right, you can." Before she could finish, the two of them suddenly turned to look at the distant sky. There, 3 streaks of light were quickly flying over. When they approached, Shen Yuanlong immediately raised his hand and deactivated the protective array. Soon, the 3 streaks of light appeared in front of Shen Yuanlong and Shen Mengsu. They were Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Dayaming. "You're here." Seeing the 3 of them, a faint smile appeared on Shen Yuanlong's face. Jiang Chengxuan looked normal, but on the other side, a look of astonishment appeared on Shen Ruyan and Shen Dayaming's faces. The 2 of them immediately bowed to Shen Yuanlong and Shen Mengsu. "Greetings, ancestors." "Wait, what?" Hearing the Shen siblings' words, Jiang Chengxuan was taken aback. "2 ancestors?" He subconsciously turned to look at the white-haired woman and saw that her beautiful eyes were also on him at this moment. She suddenly smiled at him. "You should be Jiang Chengxuan, right? This is the first time we've met. Take this bottle of Earth Essence pills as a gift from me." With that, Shen Mengsu handed a bottle of pills to Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan was dumbfounded. What was going on? Previously, Shen Yuanlong gave him a high-grade level 2 flying sword, and now, this ancestor of the Shen family in the Ganyang sect actually gave him a gift. That's right. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had already recognized the identity of white-haired woman in front of him. But why did she give him a bottle of Earth Essence pills? Although this Earth Essence pill was not a particularly precious pill, it was a pill specially used by early-stage Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators to accumulate true essence. This bottle of 6 pills should cost at least 3,000 to 4,000 spirit stones. Even Shen Ruyan and Shen Dayaming were a little puzzled. They did not understand why their 2 ancestors treated Jiang Chengxuan specially well. However, what puzzled them even more was that, after Shen Mengsu handed over the bottle of Earth Essence pills, she smiled at the 3 of them and said, "All right, there is nothing else. You can leave." Hearing this, the 3 of them couldn't help but look at each other and see confusion in each other's eyes. They really did not understand what their ancestors meant. However, since their ancestor had said so, they naturally would not stay any longer. After bowing to the 2 of them, Jiang Chengxuan and the other 2 flew away from Huwu Peak. Looking at the 3 of them leave, Shen Yuanlong couldn't help but turn to look at Shen Mengsu and ask, "Is your guess confirmed?" Shen Mengsu smiled and nodded. "That should be the case. When the time is right, try to make them Tao companions." At this point, Shen Mengsu suddenly let out a groan. Immediately after, dark red blood flowed out of her nose and quickly dyed the table red. Shen Yuanlong was shocked. He quickly went forward to support Shen Mengsu and asked anxiously, "Sister, are you all right? I'll send you back to the Ganyang sect now." However, Shen Mengsu waved her hand and smiled. "This is the backlash of peeping at heavenly secrets. I know my situation very well. I won't die for the time being. However, this basically proves that my previous guess was not wrong. The future of the Shen immortal family is probably really in the hands of the 2 of them." As she spoke, she took out a bright red pill from her body and swallowed it. After swallowing the bright red pill, her originally pale face immediately turned rosy, and she seemed to have recovered a lot. However, only Shen Yuanlong knew that his sister's lifespan was probably really running out. At the same time, after Jiang Chengxuan and the other 2 left Huwu Peak, they left the Shen immortal family's base, splendid Jade Mountain. On the way, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan turned to look at Shen Dayaming. Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but ask, "Family head, the 2 ancestors just now, what exactly?" Shen Ruyan couldn't help but interrupt, "That's right, brother, what exactly do the 2 ancestors mean?" However, Shen Dayaming smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I don't know either, even if you ask me. How can I know what the ancestors are thinking?" As he spoke, he turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan and thought for a moment before saying, "Elder Jiang, you don't have to feel pressured. Since ancestors have shown special goodwill to you, you might as well accept it. Don't worry, with my understanding of the two ancestors, they definitely mean no harm. As they spoke, the three of them arrived at a fork in the road. Shen Daoming said, "All right, let's part ways here. If anything happens, remember to send back a signal immediately." With that, Shen Daoming cupped his hands at Jiang Chengxuan and nodded at Shen Ruyan. His figure turned into a beam of light and headed north. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Let's go too. After Shen Daoming left, Shen Ruyan turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Soon, the two of them headed in the direction of Thousand Willow Market. As they approached the Thousand Willow Market, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but look at Shen Ruyan. Elder Ruyan, can you tell me in detail what kind of people Ancestor Yuanlong and Ancestor Mengsu are? Shen Ruyan knew why Jiang Chengxuan asked this. She thought for a moment before answering. As a junior, one can't comment on the two ancestors' character. However, as far as one knows, they care deeply about the family. One knows that their greatest wish is to see the Shen immortal family return to its former glory. Unfortunately, the development of the Shen immortal family over the years. At this point, Shen Ruyan shook her head with a sigh and continued. Actually, one don't have much to say about Ancestor Yuanlong. On the other hand, one heard that Ancestor Mengsu cultivated a divination technique in her early years. It's called the Heavenly Secret Calculation Technique. With this calculation method, Ancestor Mengsu has helped the Ganyang sect eliminate many great enemies, including a golden core demonic cultivator. It's also because of this that her status in the Ganyang sect is very special. Even the other two golden core supreme elders are said to be very respectful to her. This is definitely not only because she is the Tao companion of immortal Pelong. The immortal Pelong Shen Ruyan was referring to was Shen Mengsu's Tao companion, and one of the three golden core supreme elders of the Ganyang sect. His name was Zheng Pelong, and he was known as Immortal Pelong. However, I heard that every time Ancestor Mengsu uses that calculation technique, it will consume a lot of her lifespan. Shen Ruyan couldn't help but look worried. It's also because of this that she, who is less than 200 years old, already has a head full of white hair. One had to know that the lifespan of Violet Palace Realm cultivators could reach 400 years. With some life-extending spiritual items, it would not be a problem for them to live to 500 years old. However, Shen Mengsu was not even 200 years old, but she already had a head full of white hair. This was obviously because her lifespan had been severely depleted. In such a situation, even those life-prolonging spiritual items would probably not be of much help to her. The reason why they treated you like that. At this moment, Shen Ruyan looked deeply into Jiang Chengxuan's eyes and said slowly, "I'm afraid Ancestor Mengsu has seen something on you. Ancestor Yuanlong was probably asked to take care of you by Ancestor Mengsu. You don't have to worry too much. I can tell that they're expressing goodwill to you and have no intention of harming you." As they spoke, the two of them had already arrived at their destination, Thousand Willow Market. However, Jiang Chengxuan had a hard time calming himself down. From Shen Ruyan's words just now, it was obvious that Ancestor Mengsu, who cultivated Heavenly Secret Calculation Technique, saw something on him. That was why she treated him differently. What exactly had she seen? Did she discover that he had the help of a cheat system? As soon as this possibility appeared, Jiang Chengxuan denied it. If Ancestor Mengsu really discovered this secret, her attitude towards him would definitely not be so nice. She would not let him leave the Shen immortal family so easily. Although he did not want to think badly of people, Jiang Chengxuan knew how greedy people could be. He believed that no one could resist the temptation to snatch away the system from him. From the looks of it, there should be some other reason why Ancestor Mengsu had such a special attitude towards him. At the thought of this, Jiang Chengxuan turned to look at Shen Ruyan beside him and made eye contact. Shen Ruyan smiled at him and changed the topic. "Elder Jiang, how about you and I split up here to search for the remaining demonic cultivators and gather later?" As she spoke, dozens of streaks of light flew over. When they approached, it turned out that these people were all cultivators of the Shen immortal family. A middle-aged cultivator at the 9th level of Qi refinement realm stepped forward and bowed. "Greetings, elders." Clearly, before this, these cultivators had already been informed by the family of their arrival. Shen Ruyan nodded at them and asked, How's the situation now? Did you find any traces of demonic cultivators? The middle-aged cultivator shook his head and said with a troubled expression, So far, we haven't found any demonic cultivators. It's as if those people have all disappeared after that incident. Shen Ruyan narrowed her beautiful eyes and said flatly, Just because you can't find them doesn't mean that they are gone. As long as they are still in Flat Land County, they will leave traces. With that, she turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. Elder Jiang, let's each bring some people to search the surroundings. I don't believe that those rats can keep hiding like that. Jiang Chengxuan had no objections to this idea. He immediately nodded. Soon, he and Shen Ruyan each brought some people and began to search the Thousand Willow Market. Coincidentally, the middle-aged cultivator at the 9th level of Qi refinement realm was assigned to his team. Including him, there were about 20 to 30 people in Jiang Chengxuan's team. After getting to know each other briefly, Jiang Chengxuan learned that this middle-aged cultivator was called Tong Beiyuan. He was actually originally a servant of the Shen family. Later on, his spiritual root was tested, and he passed the test on the conscience platform. Only then was he taught the immortal technique. This was something Jiang Chengxuan did not expect. As long as you could pass the test, it was not impossible to be a cultivator of the Shen immortal family, even if you were just a servant. It now made sense why the Shen immortal family could obtain so many loyal cultivators. Pulling back his wandering mind, Jiang Chengxuan said to Tong Beiyuan and the others, Everyone continue searching separately. Remember to split into groups. Once you find anything, don't act rashly. Your safety is the most important. Receiving the order, Tong Beiyuan and the others immediately bowed and nodded. Soon, dozens of people dispersed. On Jiang Chengxuan's side, like everyone else, he kept using his divine sense to investigate his surroundings. However, at this moment, the system's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding, an achievement mission has been issued. Host, please complete 100 investigations of the enemy. Current progress, 1%. Jiang Chengxuan was caught off guard. Obviously, he did not expect the system to give him such a mission at this time. However, this was just right. He immediately began to search the Thousand Willow Market according to his Avui method. Soon, his mission progress began to increase. 5%, 8%, 14%, 21%. 3 days later, when the mission progress reached 100%, the system's voice sounded in his mind. Congratulations, host. You have achieved 100 investigations of the enemy and obtained the Spirit Eye of Insight. The Spirit Eye of Insight. It can allow you to see through disguise techniques that exceed your current cultivation level. It can also allow you to break various illusions and see the reality. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan felt a numbing itch in his eyes, accompanied by a faint burning pain. Fortunately, this did not last long. After about 10 minutes, everything returned to normal. However, Jiang Chengxuan knew that his eyes were different from before. He tried to activate the Spirit Eye of Insight. A layer of hazy green light immediately appeared in his eyes. After that, he could see many light spots. The light spots represented the cultivators of the Shen immortal family, who were searching for demonic cultivators everywhere. In addition, there were also traces of white spiritual qi flowing, as well as black qi that was flickering and about to dissipate. Wait! Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan saw a few illusory transparent figures. Countless twisted and crazy malicious ghosts were circling around them. Jiang Chengxuan frowned deeply and his eyes narrowed. He immediately sent a message to Shen Ruyan. As for himself, he quietly approached the illusory transparent figures. A moment later, Shen Ruyan appeared beside Jiang Chengxuan. She sent a voice transmission to Jiang Chengxuan. Elder Jiang, you said that you found traces of demonic cultivators. Jiang Chengxuan nodded and replied with a voice transmission. They are in front of us, not far away. They seem to have something on them that can isolate our divine senses. Let's attack together. We should be able to take them down. At the same time, under the shade of a tree, not far from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, a few demonic cultivators were talking to each other. One of the demonic cultivators with a hooked nose said, How many spirit stones do you have? Take them all out. One think you should be aware of our current situation. Only by avoiding the detection of the Shen immoral family, this time can we escape. If we want to avoid being detected, we have to ensure that the level 2 invisible array disk in my hand doesn't stop. Otherwise, once our whereabouts are exposed, just the two Foundation establishment cultivators in front of us are enough to wipe us out." Hearing his words, the few demonic cultivators could not help but look at each other. Although demonic cultivators often stabbed and schemed against each other, at this moment, these people clearly knew that if they did not team up, they had no chance of escaping alive. After figuring this out, they took out spirit stones from their bodies and handed them to the hook-nosed demonic cultivator. One of the coquettish female demonic cultivators chuckled. "Brother QE, whether one can escape this calamity or not will all depend on you. If one can escape this calamity, one will definitely not forget to reward you." As she spoke, she kept squirming her body. When the hook-nosed demonic cultivator called Brother QE heard this, a glint flashed across his eyes and his eyes were filled with lust. He said with an evil smile, "As long as I'm alive, you will protect you. After this crisis is over, Wu Sanyang, follow me back to the White Skeleton Mountain." At this moment, an extremely dazzling lightning bolt suddenly appeared in their vision, causing the expressions of the few hidden demonic cultivators to change drastically. "How come?" Boom! Before they could react, the lightning bolt tore open the array formation they were hiding in. Immediately after, a white pillar of light with extreme coldness crushed down on these demonic cultivators. Crag, crag, crag. The bodies of these demonic cultivators were immediately covered by a layer of ice. Then a flying sword wrapped in purple flames, and a flying sword emitting 7 colors swept past the heads of the hook-nosed demonic cultivator as well as the others. With their eyes wide open, they died without knowing how they were discovered. One had to know that the invisibility array disc in the hook-nosed demonic cultivator's hand could help them hide from the detection of a 9th-level Foundation establishment realm cultivator. What exactly was going on? Unfortunately, they were destined to not get an answer. Whoosh! However, at this moment, a large amount of blood mist suddenly rose from a figure's body. Then, like a ghost, she flashed dozens of miles away in the blink of an eye. It was the coquettish female demonic cultivator, Wu Sanyang. And the escape technique she used was called the blood shadow escape. She used more than 70% of her blood to temporarily bring her escape speed to that of the late-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivator. It was very difficult for ordinary late-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivators to catch up. With Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's current speed, they naturally couldn't catch up. This made Shen Ruyan's pretty face turn very ugly. Damn it, she actually escaped. However, Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "Don't worry, she won't be able to run far. One don't believe that the forbidden technique that burns her life can last forever." As he spoke, the green light in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes lit up again. He took Shen Ruyan and followed behind Wu Sanyang slowly. However, because Wu Sanyang was too fast, they soon lost track of her. Wu Sanyang, who had fled hundreds of kilometers in one go, heaved a sigh of relief when she sensed that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's auras were gone. Then a look of resentment appeared on her face. "Damn cultivators of the Shen family, just you wait. When one recover from my injuries, 111 definitely vent my anger on the mortals under your city." As she spoke, she had already cast a camouflage spell to hide herself. Then, she took out a handful of medicinal pills and swallowed them without hesitation. After doing all this, she took another deep breath and continued to fly into the distance. She only stopped when she found a hidden cave to hide in. She believed that this time, she had successfully shaken off the 2 people behind her. "HMPH, you put me in such a miserable situation. This matter is not over. One will make you pay." Translator, Henny Translations Editor, Henny Translations. Just as she began to heal herself and suppress the backlash of the forbidden technique, Jiang Chengxuan was leading Shen Ruyan towards the cave where Wu Sanyang was hiding. "Elder Jiang, are you still able to determine the location of that demonic woman?" In the air, Shen Ruyan asked Jiang Chengxuan. The hazy green light in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes did not go out. He smiled and nodded at Shen Ruyan. "Don't worry, I've already seen where she's hiding. If I'm not wrong, she should be trying her best to suppress the backlash of the forbidden technique. In a while, we only need to attack together to get rid of the last rat." As they spoke, the 2 of them quickly approached the place where Wu Sanyang was hiding. Wu Sanyang, who was suppressing the backlash of the blood shadow escape, felt uneasy for no reason. Agitated, she actually spat out a large mouthful of blood. Damn it, what the hell was going on? Could it be that the two of them had caught up? How was this possible? Just as this thought flashed through her mind, the cave she was in suddenly exploded with a bang. Immediately after, a seal with lightning and a flying sword with purple flames suddenly flew towards her. How could you find me? Wu Sanyang was shocked. She could not figure out how these two people found her. She had clearly shaken the two of them off, but in the end, without any time to think, Wu Sanyang immediately took out a blood-colored scimitar. The scimitar emitted a demonic aura. As soon as it appeared, the surrounding light was dyed dark red. However, in the face of Jiang Chengxuan's purple flame sword and Shen Ruyan's lightning seal, her demonic dharma artifact was useless. What followed was a series of banging and booming. Countless lightning bolts landed on the blood-colored scimitar, immediately dissipating the blood on the surface. The purple flame sword turned into a purple light. With a whoosh, it directly swept past Wu Sanyang's head, instantly burning her beautiful head into charcoal. From then on, the 4 Foundation establishment demonic cultivators hidden in the Thousand Willow Market all died. The reason they could have done this with ease was all thanks to Jiang Chengxuan's spirit eye of insight. Of course, this was also due to the fact that the 4 Foundation establishment demonic cultivators were already injured. However, no matter what, with Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's cultivation levels, it was considered a rather successful operation to be able to deal with the 4 Foundation establishment demonic cultivators hiding here. Putting away Wu Sanyang's storage bag, Shen Ruyan couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan in surprise. Elder Jiang, what ability was that just now? You could actually locate her hiding place. Jiang Chengxuan felt a sting in his eyes. This made him realize that his spirit eye of insight could not be activated indefinitely. He smiled and said honestly, "Actually, it's nothing. It's just an innate ability of mine that can track people down." Innate ability? Shen Ruyan was obviously surprised again. She knew that some people were indeed born with some extraordinary abilities that were comparable to the endowed powerful abilities of some demon beasts. She did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to be endowed with such an ability. Thinking of this, Shen Ruyan wanted to say something but hesitated. Seeing that she was holding back, Jiang Chengxuan said with a smile, "Elder Ruyan, do you want me to go elsewhere and help find traces of those demonic cultivators?" Shen Ruyan nodded and said, "That's right, I do have this thought." At this point, Shen Ruyan paused for a moment before continuing. "Of course, if you don't want to, I can understand. I won't force you. After all, if too many people know about your ability, it will definitely be disadvantageous to you." To be honest, if possible, Jiang Chengxuan naturally did not want to attract too much attention. However, the problem was that he had unknowingly been pulled into an ongoing vortex in the cultivation world. From the moment he killed the 2 Foundation establishment demonic cultivators, Jiang Chengxuan knew that it would probably be very difficult for him to stay out of trouble in the future. Most importantly, there were only 20 years left before the demon beast riot broke out. At that time, even if he wanted to stay out of trouble, he couldn't. The best thing to do to survive under that circumstance was to rely on a certain power. In the current cultivation world of the Yun Nation, there seemed to be no power more suitable for him than the Shen immortal family. Therefore, when he heard Shen Ruyan's words, he did not ponder much and almost immediately nodded at her with a smile. "I can do that, but I still hope that everyone can keep my innate ability a secret from me for the time being." A smile appeared on Shen Ruyan's face. "That's not a problem. I'll tell my brother later and get him to ask everyone to swear not to reveal the secret about your innate ability. In addition, you can't use that ability all the time, right?" As the biological sister of the head of the Shen immortal family, Shen Ruyan was not ignorant of innate abilities like Jiang Chengxuan's. As far as she knew, many cultivators with innate abilities could not maintain the activation of their innate abilities for a long period of time. "Indeed." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. "After using this ability once, I need to rest for about 1 to 2 days before I can continue to use it. Otherwise, it will cause extremely serious damage to my eyes. All right, in 2 days, let's go to see my brother. After dealing with the demonic cultivators on my brother's cider, we'll go to a few other places to investigate. At that time, I'll get my brother to tell everyone to keep it a secret. You don't have to worry." It had to be said that Shen Ruyan had considered everything thoroughly. Just like that. 2 days later, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan arrived at the search area that Shen Dayaming was currently in charge of. Seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan come to him together, Shen Dayaming was obviously surprised. He could not help but look at the two of them and say, "Elder Jiang Ruyan, why are you here?" This is. Before he could finish, Shen Ruyan threw a few storage bags at him. This made Shen Dayaming's eyes widen in shock. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. You dealt with the demonic cultivators on your side. Shen Dayaming was a little surprised. He had already recognized that the Dharma artifacts in the storage bags that Shen Ruyan had thrown to him were used by Wu Sanyang and the other demonic cultivators. Yeah. Shen Ruyan nodded with a smile. Speaking of which, this is all thanks to Elder Jiang. Elder Jiang. Shen Dayaming looked at Jiang Chengxuan in surprise. That's right. Shen Ruyan nodded again. Then she told Shen Dayaming about Jiang Chengxuan's innate ability. When Shen Dayaming heard this, he could not help but feel even more shocked. He really did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to have such a talent. This was very useful for them to search for the whereabouts of the remaining demonic cultivators. At this moment, Shen Ruyan continued, "However, I hope that you and everyone else can keep this a secret for Elder Jiang." As the head of the Shen immortal family, Shen Dayaming immediately understood Shen Ruyan's intentions and nodded in agreement. Indeed, Elder Jiang's ability is extraordinary. It's indeed not good for too many people to know. With that, Shen Dayaming couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan. Elder Jiang, leave this to me. I'll tell everyone about this later. Other than the elders, I guarantee that no one else will know. Then I'll have to trouble you, family head. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. Next, Jiang Chengxuan cooperated with Shen Dayaming and Shen Ruyan to start searching for demonic cultivators who might be hiding in this area. Several hours later, a 5th-level Foundation Establishment Realm demonic cultivator and a few Qi Refinement Realm demonic cultivators were killed by Shen Dayaming on the spot. After that, the three of them went to other places. About 10 days later, almost all the remaining demonic cultivators in the territory of the Shen immortal family were wiped out. When the group returned to the main hall on the main peak of splendid Jade Mountain, there were about 10 to 20 storage bags in front of them. They were all from those demonic cultivators. At this moment, Shen Dayaming, who was sitting at the head of the table, looked at everyone and smiled. Everyone, after this operation, we should have already cleaned up all the demonic cultivators hiding in our territory. It's all thanks to Elder Jiang that we were able to be so efficient. Everyone, do you have anything to say? Hearing Shen Dayaming's words, everyone nodded in agreement. Indeed. Given how cunning those demonic cultivators were, without Jiang Chengxuan's spirit eye of insight, it would probably be quite difficult for them to find and kill them all. Even if they could do it in the end, the time and energy they would need to spend in this process would probably be a considerable number. Therefore, Shen Dayaming continued, if there is no objection, according to the rules of my Shen immortal family, 40% of the spoils will be given to Elder Jiang. Moreover, he will be the first to choose these things. I have no objections. Shen Ruyan was the first to speak. I have no objections either. Xing Wandao echoed. Su Kaiyan and Su Changyan looked at each other before saying, we also have no objections. Hearing this, Shen Dayaming immediately smiled at Jiang Chengxuan and made an inviting gesture. Elder Jiang, please. Jiang Chengxuan did not stand on ceremony. When he heard this, he picked up the storage bags and checked them seriously. It had to be said that there was no lack of good stuff in these storage bags. There were more than 18,000 spirit stones in total. According to the distribution ratio, he could easily take 7,200 spirit stones. Including what he had at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had almost 12,000 spirit stones. This was definitely a huge sum of money for a cultivator at the second level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Any Foundation Establishment cultivator would probably be envious. Then there were some precious materials, medicinal pills, Dharma artifacts, and many evil things that could only be used by demonic cultivators. Whether it was Jiang Chengxuan or anyone else present, they would clearly not touch those evil things that only demonic cultivators would use. In the end, these things would be destroyed. Jiang Chengxuan rummaged through the storage bags and quickly took out a large pile of materials. Most of them were things he could use to make talismans later. Most importantly, what surprised him the most was that among these materials, he actually obtained 2 extreme yellow jade and 3 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew. He had spent a long time searching for these 2 materials with no success, but he did not expect to find so many here. This was really a windfall. Jiang Chengxuan took away the materials and a level 2 invisibility disc before stopping. Then, Shen Daoming began to distribute the remaining things to the others present. After the spoils were distributed, Shen Daoming discussed some matters with everyone before they left the main hall. Elder Jiang, are you planning to return to your cave abode directly? As soon as they left the main peak, Jiang Chengxuan heard Shen Ruyan's voice. He smiled and shook his head. I plan to exchange and buy some things first. What about you, Elder Ruyan? It had to be known that he obtained a lot of family contribution points from killing those demonic cultivators and helping everyone track the demonic cultivators down. In addition, he currently had 12,000 spirit stones to spend to increase his strength just so that he could be well equipped for the upcoming demon beast riot. Moreover, no one could guarantee that the demon beast riot would not be brought forward. If he could not convert the resources in his hands to actual strength before the demon beast riot broke out, it would be a waste. When Shen Ruyan heard his words, she replied with a smile. What a coincidence. I also plan to exchange and buy some things. Elder Jiang, if you don't mind, let's go together. All right. Soon, the 2 of them went to the Sutra Depository and the family treasury vault. In the Sutra Depository, Jiang Chengxuan used his family contribution points to exchange for 2 mid-grade level 2 spells. One was the Sea-Burning Flame Explosion, a fire element area of effect spell. The other was the Tortoiseshell Earth Spirit Technique, an earth element defensive spell. Because both of them belonged to the 5 elements, as long as Jiang Chengxuan could successfully cultivate them, with his aptitude, he could increase the power of these 2 spells by 1 to 2 times. Then, Jiang Chengxuan went to the family treasury vault with Shen Ruyan to exchange for a mid-grade level 2 defensive Dharma artifact. This Dharma artifact was called the Greenwood Heavenly Light Shield. It was refined from level 2 precious materials, the armored wood crystal and the true wood jade. It contained many defensive array runes. When being attacked, this shield would automatically release a layer of green light. It could be used to block the attack from one angle or from all angles. However, when using this shield to defend from all angles, its defense would be greatly weakened. Even so, it was still a rare defensive Dharma artifact. Compared to Jiang Chengxuan's purple gold spirit shield, it was countless times stronger. After that, Jiang Chengxuan spent another 3,500 spirit stones to buy a mid-grade level 2 Dharma artifact called the Shadow-Splitting Light Blade. The main function of this Dharma artifact was to sneak attack. It was particularly useful in breaking protective spells and had an extremely powerful stealth ability. It was very difficult for the enemy to detect it. In the end, Jiang Chengxuan spent thousands of spirit stones to buy a large pile of talisman-making materials. Coupled with the talisman-making materials he had obtained from the storage bags of many demonic cultivators, they were already enough for him to make nearly 100 low-grade level 2 talismans. Or even more. At that time, even if he could not defeat his opponent in terms of strength, he could use these talismans to take down the opponent. When Jiang Chengxuan had exchanged what he wanted, he stopped lingering outside. After bidding farewell to Shen Ruyan, he returned to his cave abode. He took out the level 2 invisibility disc he had obtained from the spoils from his storage bag. After Jiang Chengxuan refined it, he placed it outside his cave abode. After doing this, Jiang Chengxuan began to think about what he was going to do next. The first was naturally cultivation. With the bottle of earth essence pills that Shen Mengsu had given him previously, it should not be a problem for Jiang Chengxuan to raise his cultivation to the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment realm. The only thing he needed to consider was whether he could break through to the 4th level of the Foundation establishment realm, which was also called the mid-stage, before the demon beast riot broke out. Next was to refine the Dharma artifacts he had obtained. The most important one was the high-grade level 2 flying sword that the Shen family's ancestor, Shen Yuanlong, had given him. It was called the Void Dragon Sword with the element of metal. There was a pattern of a flood dragon engraved on it. Its strength was its speed and sharpness. It could cut through all tangible and intangible things in an instant. As of now, it was considered Jiang Chengxuan's greatest trump card. Once it was taken out, even cultivators at the 9th level of the Foundation establishment realm would be awed. Then it was the green wood heavenly light shield and the shadow light splitting blade. The former was his protective item and was very important. The latter could assist him in time of dire need during a tough battle, which was also quite important. Apart from refining these 3 level 2 Dharma artifacts, Jiang Chengxuan also needed to cultivate the 2 level 2 spells he had exchanged from the Shen Immortal Family Sutra Depository. One was the Sea Burning Flame Explosion, and the other was the Tortoiseshell Earth Spirit Shield. They were all things that could strengthen his foundation. And lastly, he needed to make level 2 talismans. Needless to say, the first one to make was the golden armored puppet talisman rewarded by the system. With the 3 extreme yellow jades and 4 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew in his hands, Jiang Chengxuan could almost make 3 golden armor puppet talismans. 3 golden armor puppet talismans meant 3 Foundation establishment realm cultivators. Although the puppet could only last for 10 minutes, if it was used well, it would definitely be a rather powerful trump card. And that was because at the critical moment, the puppet could self-destruct. If the opponent was not prepared, even a mid-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivator might be seriously injured or even die. In addition to making this golden armored puppet talisman, Jiang Chengxuan also wanted to try making mid-grade level 2 talismans. Among them, the most useful was a talisman called the binding talisman. It could bind the enemy and temporarily immobilize them. If it was used well, it could definitely catch the opponent off guard. However, if he wanted to make such a talisman, Jiang Chengxuan had to raise his talisman-making cultivation to the mid-grade level 2. All in all, Jiang Chengxuan had a lot to do next. Jiang Chengxuan estimated that it would take at least 8 to 10 years to complete all the things above. On the other side, Shen Daoming was summoned to Huowu Peak again by ancestor Shen Yuanlong. At this moment, Shen Yuanlong was sitting at a stone table. When he saw Shen Daoming coming over, he immediately nodded at him. "I already know what happened. I called you over this time to ask you something. What do you think about betrothing your sister, Shen Ruyan, to Jiang Chengxuan?" "What?" Hearing his ancestor's words, Shen Daoming was shocked. He did not expect his ancestor to call him here to tell him about this. "Why, is there a problem?" "Ancestor, isn't this decision too abrupt?" After a pause, Shen Daoming hurriedly continued. "Also, I have a question. You and ancestor Mengsu seem to value elder Jiang very much. Can you tell me why?" However, Shen Yunlong shook his head. "It's a heavenly secret. Ancestor Mengsu has already lost a lot of her lifespan to peek at the secret. If I tell you, she will probably suffer a second blow." At this point, Shen Yunlong couldn't help but look at Shen Daoming and say, "I think with your understanding of elder Jiang, it shouldn't be difficult for you to guess why." These words made Shen Daoming's heart skip a beat. He found it unbelievable, but he knew very well that his 2 ancestors would never joke about such a thing. He immediately nodded and said, "Ancestor, I have no objections to this matter. I just don't know if my sister and elder Jiang will agree to it." "You don't have to worry about that." A smile appeared on Shen Yunlong's face. "At that time, you just have to bring them to me." Time passed. In the blink of an eye, it was already 3 years later. At this moment, a surging aura suddenly rose in Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode. Jiang Chengxuan, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and smiled. He had finally reached the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment realm. After more than 3 years of continuous cultivation, coupled with the bottle of earth essence pills that Shen Mengsu had given him, Jiang Chengxuan finally broke through from the 2nd level of the Foundation establishment realm to the 3rd level. At this moment, the total true essence in Jiang Chengxuan's body had increased by more than 30% compared to before. It was almost comparable to that of a 5th level Foundation establishment realm cultivator. It might even be more. Most importantly, after breaking through to the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment realm, be it refining Dharma artifacts or making talismans, there was a significant increase in speed and success rate. In less than 3 months, Jiang Chengxuan successfully refined the 2 mid-grade level 2 Dharma artifacts, the green wood heavenly light shield and the shadow-splitting light blade. Then he spent more than half a year successfully refining the high-grade level 2 Dharma artifact that Shen Yuanlong had given him, the Void Dragon Sword. In addition to the purple flame sword and purple gold spirit shield that he had, Jiang Chengxuan had a total of 5 Dharma artifacts that could be used to fight and defend against enemies. Among them, the purple flame sword and the green wood heavenly shield were mid-grade level 2 Dharma artifacts. The void dragon sword was a high-grade level 2 Dharma artifact that could be used as his trump card when he was on the losing side. After doing all this, Jiang Chengxuan began to cultivate the 2 mid-grade level 2 spells, the sea-burning flame explosion and the tortoiseshell earth spirit shield. Perhaps it was because he had the yin-yang 5-element spiritual root, but when he cultivated the 2 spells, it was actually smooth sailing. In 2 years, Jiang Chengxuan had cultivated these 2 mid-grade level 2 spells to the early stage. With these 2 early-stage spells, Jiang Chengxuan was enough to pose a huge threat to mid-stage foundation establishment realm cultivators. After that, he spent another 1.5 years cultivating the breeze sword technique, rewarded by the system to the late stage. Although he had not tested the strength of the late-stage breeze sword technique, based on the power of the early-stage breeze sword technique, it was definitely not a problem to threaten a cultivator at the 6th level of the foundation establishment realm. After it was done, Jiang Chengxuan finally focused on drawing level 2 talismans. However, he did not draw the golden armored puppet talisman immediately. Instead, he found a few relatively simple low-grade level 2 talismans to draw to warm up. For example, the wood rejuvenation talisman, the giant fire snake talisman, the nirvana water ice sword talisman, and so on. They were all relatively simple and easy to master among low-grade level 2 talismans. However, perhaps because he had mastered the ability to draw difficult talismans like the golden armored puppet talisman, when he began to draw talismans like the wood rejuvenation talisman, it was surprisingly smooth. Without failure, he drew many in a row. Even the time he spent was not as much as he had imagined. In this way, Jiang Chengxuan finally confirmed that his talisman-making mastery had probably reached the peak of low-grade level 2. As long as he took another step forward, he could break through to the mid-grade level 2. Without any hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out the extreme yellow jade, the heavenly spiritual dew, and some other supplementary materials to draw the golden armor puppet talisman. Half a year later, when Jiang Chengxuan drew the last stroke on the extreme yellow jade with the heavenly spiritual dew, the entire jade immediately lit up with a dazzling light. The originally yellow jade now had many extremely complicated patterns on its surface. If cultivators below the foundation establishment realm used their divine sense to decipher the patterns, they would probably suffer a blow to their soul. Possibly, they would also be injured physically. Is this the golden armored puppet talisman that the system rewarded me with? Jiang Chengxuan held the golden armored puppet talisman up and sensed the difference between it and the other talismans. He could not help but be stunned. The things rewarded by the system were indeed different. Its value could no longer be measured by grades. He did not doubt at all that once the method to make this golden armor puppet talisman was sold at the trade fair, it would definitely cause the various foundation establishment families to compete for it crazily. Even a Violet Palace Realm immortal family like the Shen immortal family would be very tempted. As Jiang Chengxuan thought, he continued to make the second golden armor puppet talisman. Having succeeded once, Jiang Chengxuan was clearly faster at making the second golden armored puppet talisman. This time, he only spent 5 months to successfully make the second golden armored puppet talisman. By the time he made the golden armored puppet talisman for the 3rd time, his speed had noticeably increased. This time, he only used 4.5 months to successfully draw the 3rd golden armored puppet talisman. Hence, he already had 3 golden armored puppet talismans. Next, he only needed to find another extreme yellow jade. Coupled with the additional bottle of heavenly spiritual dew in his hand, he should be able to make the 4th golden armor puppet talisman. However, he did not know if the value of the extreme yellow jade and heavenly spiritual dew, the main materials used to make this golden armor puppet talisman, would soar after people found out that they could be used to make the golden armor puppet talisman. Another 2 years passed. There were already 50 to 60 low-grade level 2 talismans in Jiang Chengxuan's hand. It included offensive, defensive, detoxifying, healing, and bewitching talismans. However, what made him slightly frustrated was that, during this period of time, he had tried to draw mid-grade level 2 talismans many times, but all of them failed. Later on, he realized that the thing that restricted him from successfully drawing a mid-grade level 2 talisman was probably not his current talisman-making mastery, but the talisman brush in his hand. Using an ordinary low-grade level 2 talisman brush to draw a mid-grade level 2 talisman was undoubtedly challenging. After failing to draw another mid-grade level 2 talisman, Jiang Chengxuan finally put down the talisman brush in his hand. It seemed that he had to buy a mid-grade level 2 talisman brush. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, the system's voice suddenly sounded. "Ding, congratulations, host. You have completed 100 drawings of level 2 talisman. You have received talent +1. What? Yang Chengxuan was surprised to hear this voice. What was going on? He didn't remember the system giving him a mission before. If he could obtain the system's reward just by doing something 100 times, then wouldn't he also receive a reward by eating 100 times and sleeping 100 times? Could it be that this was related to the mission given by the system previously to draw 30 level 2 talismans? With this mission as a prerequisite, when he accidentally drew talismans 100 times, he unlocked the hidden mission. No matter how he thought about it, this seemed to be the only possibility. Then Xianxia Audiobook felt that something had changed in his body. However, when he carefully sensed that change, it seemed to have disappeared. When he looked at the failed talismans in front of him, he immediately noticed the mistakes he had made. He could completely avoid these mistakes and minimize the possibility of failure. Even what stumped him previously seemed to have cleared up at this moment. He felt that he wouldn't fail again. At the thought of this, Xianxia Audiobook immediately realized that this was the change brought about by the additional talisman-making talent rewarded by the system. That must be it. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to have such a deep comprehension of talisman making in such a short period of time. Thinking of this, Xianxia Audiobook immediately picked up the talisman brush again and began to draw a mid-grade level 2 talisman called the Wood Vitality Talisman. The main use of this talisman was to restore the vitality of level 1 or level 2 spiritual plants. It was commonly used in large families and cultivation sects. He had tried to draw this talisman a few times before, but without exception, they all failed in the end. He did not know if he could successfully draw the Wood Vitality Talisman with this low-grade level 2 talisman brush. Soon, wisps of spiritual light began to gather at the tip of the brush in Xianxia Audiobook's hand. Then, complicated and mysterious runes began to appear on the talisman paper in front of him. A month later, when the talisman brush in Xianxia Audiobook's hand finished the last stroke, he had successfully drawn the level 2 mid-grade Wood Vitality Talisman. A look of joy appeared on Xianxia Audiobook's face. He really succeeded in drawing a level 2 mid-grade talisman. Moreover, he used a low-grade level 2 talisman brush. He picked up the Wood Vitality Talisman that he had just drawn and examined it carefully. He realized that the quality of this talisman was quite good. It was almost comparable to the work of a veteran mid-grade level 2 talisman master. It seems that after this, I should think of a way to get the second part of the level 2 talisman book. After all, the number of mid-grade level 2 talismans recorded in the first part of the level 2 talisman book is very limited. Moreover, most of them are support-type talismans. There are only a few talismans that can be used in battle. Thinking of this, Xianxia Audiobook couldn't help but place his attention on the binding talisman. It was the most useful offensive talisman in the first part of the level 2 talisman book. 2 years later, outside Xianxia Audiobook's cave abode, suddenly 2 streaks of light descended. They were the current head of the Shen immortal family, Shen Dayaming, and his sister, Shen Ruyan. At this moment, after 12 years of seclusion, Shen Ruyan's cultivation had clearly improved greatly. She successfully broke through to the 6th level of the Foundation Establishment realm from the 4th level. Even her brother, Shen Dayaming, who knew her best, could not help but be shocked when he saw this speed with his own eyes. It had to be noted that after Foundation Establishment cultivators broke through to the mid-stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, which was the 4th level, under normal circumstances, it would take them something like to 15 years to break through to another level. It was very common for some people with poor aptitude to be stuck at the mid-stage forever and never advance in their lives. Surprisingly, in the past 12 years, his sister, Shen Ruyan, had actually advanced 2 levels. At this moment, Shen Daoming looked at the cave abode, wrapped in layers of array formations and restrictions, and said, I didn't expect Elder Jiang to stay in seclusion for such a long time like you. I wonder when he will come out. Shen Ruyan did not answer Shen Daoming. Instead, she looked at Jiang Chc and Jixuan's cave abode and said calmly, Brother, are you really not going to tell me why Ancestor asked me to go to see him with Elder Jiang? An awkward expression appeared on Shen Daoming's face. I told you, when you and Elder Jiang see Ancestor, you'll naturally know. Don't make things difficult for me. He really did not know how to put it. Also, he felt that Shen Ruyan seemed to have changed a lot after coming out of seclusion this time. Vaguely, it gave him an inexplicable pressure. He felt as if facing Shen Ruyan was like facing the ancestor, Shen Yuanlong. In fact, the pressure she gave him might even be greater. This feeling was very inexplicable, and it also made Shen Daoming very puzzled. He did not understand what the change on his sister was about. Just as he was wondering if he should ask, Shen Ruyan suddenly spoke. He's out. As soon as she finished speaking, a thick fog suddenly rolled in. Immediately after, the thick fog slowly dispersed, revealing a cave abode. Jiang Chc and Jixuan stood at the entrance of the cave abode and cupped his fists at the two of them with a smile. Family head Shen, Elder Ruyan, long time no see. When they saw Jiang Chc and Jixuan, Shen Daoming and Shen Ruyan immediately cupped their fists in return. Jiang Chc and Jixuan said, Since the two of you are here, why don't you come in and have a seat? Just as Shen Daoming was about to explain the reason for his coming, Shen Ruyan, who was beside him, beat him to it. She smiled and nodded at Jiang Chc and Jixuan. I'd like that. With that, she strode into Jiang Chc and Jixuan's cave abode. Shen Daoming was speechless. He had no choice but to follow suit. As soon as they entered Jiang Chc and Jixuan's cave abode, Shen Daoming and Shen Ruyan felt the dense spiritual qi here. Looking up, the two of them saw several mid-grade level 2 spirit-gathering talismans placed in the cave abode. A trace of surprise flashed across Shen Daoming's eyes as he subconsciously said, Elder Jiang, did you buy these mid-grade level 2 spirit-gathering talismans? This was because, according to Shen Daoming's knowledge, there were not many spirit-gathering talismans above level 2 in the Shen immortal family, because most of them were placed on the various peaks to gather spiritual qi. Not really. At this moment, Jiang Chc and Jixuan had already made spiritual tea for Shen Daoming and Shen Ruyan. After gesturing to the two of them to drink the tea, he smiled and replied, I drew these level 2 spirit-gathering talismans not long ago. PFFFD. Hearing that, Shen Daoming, who had just taken a sip of spiritual tea, spat it out. He looked at Jiang Chc and Jixuan in shock and asked, Elder Jiang, did you just say that you drew these mid-grade level 2 spirit-gathering talismans yourself? If he remembered correctly, when Jiang Chengxuan first joined the Shen immortal family, he was only a high-grade level 1 talisman master, right? Only a dozen years had passed, and he was already able to draw mid-grade level 2 spirit-gathering talisman. Wait, his cultivation. Shen Daoming had not paid much attention to it just now. At this moment, he looked at Jiang Chengxuan and suddenly sensed the change in his cultivation. He had clearly broken through to the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment realm. In less than 20 years, not only did Jiang Chengxuan break through to the 3rd level of the Foundation Establishment realm, but he also raised his talisman-making mastery to the mid-grade level 2. This speed. Shen Daoming did not know what to say. At the side, Shen Ruyan's beautiful eyes also lit up. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, Elder Jiang, in that case, you're already a mid-grade level 2 talisman master. Yeah. There was no point in keeping it a secret. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. Speaking of which, I have to thank Elder Ruyan for giving me the level 2 talisman book back then. If not for it, my talisman-making mastery would not have increased so quickly. Elder Jiang, you're too humble. Shen Ruyan smiled. She suddenly turned to look at Shen Daoming beside her and said, Brother, now that Elder Jiang has already become a mid-grade level 2 talisman master, can we give him the second part of the level 2 talisman book as a congratulatory gift later? Shen Daoming clearly did not expect Shen Ruyan to suddenly say this. He pondered for a moment and nodded. Sure. With that, Shen Daoming looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said, Elder Jiang, what level 2 talismans can you make now? Basically, everything in the first part of the level 2 talisman book. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "These are the level 2 talismans I've made recently. You can take a look. If you need it, feel free to take it." As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan took out more than 10 talismans. Among them were low or mid-grade level 2 talismans such as the Wood Rejuvenation Talisman, the Wood Vitality Talisman, the Giant Fire Snake Talisman, the Binding Talisman, the Big Dipper Teleportation Talisman, and the Spirit Gathering Talisman. This made Shen Daoming and Shen Ruyan's eyes light up. These were all useful talismans. Shen Ruyan did not stand on ceremony with Jiang Chengxuan. She casually picked up 2 talismans. It was the Binding Talisman and the Big Dipper Teleportation Talisman. The former was a mid-grade level 2 control-type talisman, while the latter was a mid-grade level 2 talisman for escape and teleportation. They were all considered high-value and practical talismans. On the other hand, Shen Daoming was a little hesitant. Needless to say, the talismans Jiang Chengxuan took out were quite useful even to the Violet Palace realm immortal family of their size. However, compared to these talismans, he valued Jiang Chengxuan more. The importance and status of a third-level foundation establishment realm cultivator, who could draw mid-grade level 2 talismans, was clearly different from an ordinary third-level foundation establishment realm cultivator. Shen Ruyan seemed to have noticed that her brother was hesitating. Seeing this, she couldn't help but suggest with a smile, "If you think it's not good to take away these talismans from Elder Jiang just like that, you can convert them into corresponding family contribution points to Elder Jiang." Shen Daoming thought for a moment and looked at Jiang Chengxuan. "Elder Jiang, I wonder how many more of these talismans you have, especially the Wood Vitality Talisman and the Level 2 Spirit Gathering Talisman. If there are any, I want to buy it from you with family contribution points of 1,500 to 2,500 each. What do you think?" "No problem." Jiang Chengxuan naturally wouldn't reject Shen Daoming, nor would he be stupid enough to say that he didn't need the family contribution points. He handed all the Wood Vitality Talismans and Level 2 Spirit Gathering Talismans to Shen Daoming. There were about 7 or 8 of them in total. In exchange, Shen Daoming gave Jiang Chengxuan 15,000 family contribution points. After that, Shen Daoming also made a request, hoping that Jiang Chengxuan could draw more such talismans when he had time in the future. As for the materials, he could take them from the family treasury vault with his elder token at any time. Jiang Chengxuan did not refuse. However, he had also made it clear that he would only draw these talismans when he had time. After all, he had a lot of things to do now, especially cultivation. It was impossible for him to delay his own matters just to help the Shen immortal family. Shen Daoming naturally knew this very well. As a cultivator, no matter when, increasing his cultivation and strength was always the priority. After that, the 3 of them chatted for a while before Shen Daoming told Jiang Chengxuan the reason for his coming. It was naturally to invite Jiang Chengxuan to Huowu Peak. This surprised Jiang Chengxuan. He never thought that more than 10 years later, he would revisit Huowu Peak. Moreover, just like last time, he was invited by the Shen family's ancestor, Shen Yuanlong. He just did not know what would happen when he went to Huowu Peak to see Shen Yuanlong this time. The 3 of them did not waste any more time. Soon, they left the cave abode together and turned into a streak of light, heading towards Huowu Peak. At Huowu Peak, when Jiang Chengxuan and the other 2 arrived, Shen Yuanlong was already waiting for them at the peak. Jiang Chengxuan and the other 2 immediately bowed to Shen Yuanlong. "Greetings, ancestor." Shen Yuanlong smiled and waved his hand. "There's no need for formality, take a seat first." As he spoke, he waved his hand and summoned a stone table and stone stools. Then, with a wave of his hand, the steaming spiritual tea landed steadily on the table. "This is the level 3 spirit awakening tea that I received from your ancestor. Mengsug, try it." Level 3 spiritual awakening tea. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Daoming were obviously shocked. It was said that level 2 spirit awakening tea had the effect of cleansing the impurities in a cultivator's soul. They really did not know how extraordinary this level 3 spirit awakening tea would be. Compared to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Daoming's strong reaction, Shen Ruyan was comparably calmer. She gently picked up the teacup in front of her and took a sip before nodding. She didn't say anything. However, when Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Daoming picked up their teacups and took a sip, they immediately felt an extremely cool air entering their body, cleansing their minds. When they finished the cup of spirit awakening tea, they exhaled grayish-brown breaths. Those were some impurities. It's really good tea. Shen Daoming could not help but praise. Jiang Chengxuan nodded in agreement. On the other hand, Shen Ruyan still didn't say anything. At this moment, Shen Yuanlong's gaze landed on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. He smiled and said, "It's been more than 10 years since we last met. It seems that your cultivation and strength have improved a lot." After a pause, Shen Yuanlong continued, "Actually, I asked Daoming to call you over this time to ask you if the two of you have any thoughts of becoming Dao companions." Hearing Shen Yuanlong's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could not help but look stunned. The two of them clearly did not expect Shen Yuanlong to call them over for this. Subconsciously, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. At this moment, an inexplicable emotion emerged in their hearts. After a while, Shen Ruyan smiled. She looked at Shen Yuanlong and nodded. "It's my honor to be Elder Jiang's Dao companion." "Good." Shen Yuanlong immediately smiled and turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan was filled with questions. After interacting with Shen Ruyan for so many years, Jiang Chengxuan indeed had some feelings towards her. He also believed that if their relationship continued, they would probably get together sooner or later. However, Shen Yuanlong had brought all of this forward. Of course, what surprised him the most was Shen Ruyan's attitude towards him. Jiang Chengxuan turned to look at Shen Ruyan and smiled. Then, he turned to look at Shen Yuanlong and said, "Ancestor, I'd like to become Elder Ruyan's Dao companion." "Good, good, good." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's answer, Shen Yuanlong was obviously very happy. He took out 2 storage rings and handed them to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "Chengxuan Ruyan, take the storage ring as a gift from me. There are some treasures I left inside for you. I hope you can cultivate diligently and explore the way of the Tao together." Shen Daoming, who was at the side, was a little surprised. He did not expect the ancestor to give them 2 storage rings. It had to be noted that among the many storage Dharma artifacts, storage bags were the most common and ordinary. They weren't capable of recognizing their masters. You could only leave some restrictions on it to prevent people from opening it. However, ordinary cultivators only needed to spend some time cracking it open. On the other hand, the storage ring was different. Not only was its internal space much larger than the storage bag, but it also had the ability to recognize its master. Unless its master was dead or a high-level cultivator used his magic power to forcefully break the restriction, ordinary people would not be able to open the storage ring even if they obtained it. Moreover, inside the 2 storage rings, there were treasures Shen Yuanlong had prepared for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not turn it down. After thanking Shen Yuanlong, they reached out and took the storage ring. A while later, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Shen Daoming left Huwu Peak. On the way back, Shen Daoming smiled and said to the 2 of them, "I'll tell the family about you 2 becoming Dao companions later. In addition, if you have nothing else to do now, follow me to the Shen family's ancestral hall." Many years ago, Shen Ruyan and Shen Daoming's parents passed away. Shen Daoming asked the 2 of them to go to the Shen family's ancestral hall to pay respects to their deceased parents and tell them about this good news. Cultivators didn't have complicated formalities like mortals when they became Dao companions. Unless there was a special need, such as a marriage between the 2 families. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not the kind of people who liked to be high-profile. Therefore, they skipped all the unnecessary procedures. When the 2 of them heard Shen Daoming, they looked at each other and nodded. Soon, the 3 of them arrived at the ancestral hall of the Shen immortal family under Shen Daoming's lead. They walked all the way into the ancestral hall before arriving at a row of memorial tablets. Shen Daoming pointed at 2 of the memorial tablets and said to Jiang Chengxuan, "Brother-in-law, these are Ruyan and my parents. Offer incense to them." As he spoke, Shen Daoming brought over 6 incense sticks. He handed 3 to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took it. Then, the 2 of them lit the 3 incense sticks in their hands and bowed to the 2 memorial tablets in front of them. Shen Daoming, who was beside them, said to the 2 memorial tablets with emotions, "Father, Mother, you were always worried that Ruyan wouldn't be able to find a Dao companion she likes because her personality was too out of place in the cultivation world. Do you see it now? Ruyan has changed a lot. Now she even found a Dao companion. It's the person beside her, Jiang Chengxuan. He is a guest elder of the Shen family and a level 2 talisman master. Of course, now that he's Ruyan's Dao companion, he's a member of our Shen immortal family. After saying that, Shen Daoming turned to look at the two of them. At the same time, the two of them had finished paying their respects. Then Shen Daoming handed the other 6 incense sticks to the two of them. This time, they were going to pay respects to the ancestors of the Shen immortal family. After they finished paying their respects, the 3 of them left the ancestral hall. Outside, Shen Daoming looked at the two of them and said, "Let's find a time to call the elders of the family over for a gathering. By the way, Ruyan and Chengxuan, if you have any friends you want to invite, you can ask them to come over." Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had no objections to this arrangement. Next was the problem of the cave abode where the two of them lived. Are you planning to choose a new cave abode, or do you want to move to Chengxuan's place, or do you want to move to Ruyan's place? Hearing Shen Daoming's question, Shen Ruyan immediately smiled and said, "Of course I'll move to my husband's place. How can I let him move to my cave abode?" Hearing how Shen Ruyan called Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Daoming had mixed feelings. As the saying went, an elder brother was like a father. At this moment, he felt like an old father seeing his daughter get married. He nodded. "That's up to you, just let me know when you made up your mind." After that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not stay any longer. After bidding farewell, the two of them flew towards Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode. A few days later, after Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan sent the last guest, Xianxia off, they were officially considered Dao companions. Looking at the festive decorations around the cave abode, the two of them could not help but smile at each other. Shen Ruyan said, "Husband, life is long and the journey will be a bumpy one, but I hope we can't stay together until the end." Jiang Chengxuan reached out and hugged Shen Ruyan's slender waist, pulling her towards him and planting a kiss on her forehead. Although there were no words, it was better than thousands of words. A few months later, Jiang Chengxuan could not help but be shocked when he sensed the commotion in the cultivation room where Shen Ruyan was in seclusion. "This aura Ruyan is." Creak. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, the door of the cultivation room opened. Shen Ruyan, whose eyes were flickering with blue lightning, appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan. "Ruyan, did you break through to the late-stage foundation establishment realm?" "I understand." Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded at Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan immediately let out a gasp of surprise. If he remembered correctly, it hadn't been long since she broke through to the 6th level of the foundation establishment realm, right? Now again, she successfully broke through to the 7th level of the foundation establishment realm, which was the late stage. This was not right. How could anyone break through in such a short period of time? Even he and those cultivators with heavenly spiritual root could not do it, unless she had obtained a natural spiritual object that could increase her cultivation. However, this was unlikely. "Husband." At this moment, Shen Ruyan approached Jiang Chengxuan and looked into his eyes. "You're my husband and my cultivation companion, so I won't hide things from you, nor am I willing to. I can hide my current cultivation from others, even from my brother, but I definitely won't hide it from you." Buzz. As soon as she finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan was shocked to see that Shen Ruyan, who was at the 7th level of the foundation establishment realm, had returned to the 6th level in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, even with his spirit eye of insight, he could not tell that her actual level was at the 7th. If he hadn't seen it for himself that she had indeed broken through to the 7th level of the foundation establishment realm, Jiang Chengxuan would have suspected that he was hallucinating. How could a foundation establishment cultivator possess such a superb technique to hide her cultivation level? "Ruyan, are you?" "I understand." Shen Ruyan nodded with a smile. "That's right, I've indeed hidden my cultivation." After a pause, Shen Ruyan continued, "I'm doing this to tell you that since we're already Dao companions, I won't hide anything from you, let alone lie to you. Even if it's a white lie, I won't. However, there are some things that I really can't tell you now or explain in too much detail. That's because it will only be bad for you. Can you understand me?" "I understand." Yang Chengxuan was not a fool. He knew that his Dao companion had many secrets, and they were secrets of the shocking kind. But the fact that she was so honest with him explained a lot. Yang Chengxuan could actually relate to her, because he was not ready to tell her the secret of the system either. Since it was not convenient for them to reveal the secret for the time being, they just had to respect each other. As long as they put the matter on the table and understood and respected each other, there would be no problem. Buzz. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's communication Jade talismans suddenly lit up at the same time. Then a message appeared in their minds. Come to the meeting hall of the main peak at once. After hearing this message, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan immediately looked at each other. Judging from the serious tone, it must be something important. The couple did not delay and flew straight towards the meeting hall of the main peak of splendid Jade Mountain. A moment later, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan descended into the meeting hall. At this moment, Shen Dayuming and all the Foundation establishment elders had already gathered. What surprised them the most was that their ancestor, Shen Yuanlong, was also present. The two of them immediately bowed to Shen Yuanlong. Shen Yuanlong nodded at them with a smile. Have a seat. When Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan sat down, Shen Yuanlong said, I just received news from the Ganyang sect that there's a high chance that the demon beast riot, which is thought to take place in 10 years, will come early. What? When they suddenly heard the news from Shen Yuanlong, all the Shen family elders present were shocked. Why is it brought forward again? Is the agreement between the high-level human cultivators and those demon beasts non-existent? Shen Changyan, who was next to Shen Yuanlong in terms of seniority, was so angry that he shouted. In the past, the Shen immortal family failed to become a golden core immortal family because of the demon beast riot. In the end, they went downhill and were almost reduced to a Foundation establishment realm family. The Shen immortal family was definitely one of the people who hated the demon beast riot the most. Moreover, there was something that no one was willing to point out. As the demon beast riot was continuously being brought forward, it also showed that the situation of the human race on the high-level battlefield with the demon beasts was getting worse. This was something that low-level cultivators like them could not interfere in at all. It was also the main reason why many people were not optimistic about the future. In addition, there were demonic cultivators lurking in the dark. To put it pessimistically, it was hard to say if ordinary cultivators and mortals like them would have a place to live in the entire 9 essences immortal cultivation world. This was also one of the main reasons why cultivators were constantly bewitched and eventually fell into the demonic path. At this moment, everyone was looking at Shen Yuanlong, waiting for him to continue. Shen Yuanlong clearly knew how everyone was feeling, so he did not keep them guessing and continued. In order to ensure that when the demon beast riot breaks out, we can focus on dealing with the demon beasts and not be disturbed by other unexpected factors, we need to resolve some hidden dangers in advance. Resolve hidden dangers in advance. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They roughly understood what Shen Yuanlong was referring to. The hidden dangers should be those demonic cultivators hiding in the dark. Shen Rushwang, who had basically recovered from her injuries, said, Ancestor, I wonder how we should resolve the hidden dangers. Should the various immortal families and sects search and clean up the demonic cultivators on their own territory, or should we listen to the arrangements of the Ganyang sect? There was a big difference. If the various immortal families and sects dealt with the hidden danger on their own, they had the right to decide how they wanted to do it. The only problem was that, due to their limited abilities, they might not be able to clean up the demonic cultivators completely. If they listened to the arrangements of the Ganyang sect, there was no doubt that all the immortal families and sects would be subsidiary forces of the Ganyang sect. They had to follow the Ganyang sect's lead. At that time, in face of danger, if the Ganyang sect asked you to attack, you couldn't retreat. If you retreated, you, along with your sect, would be ostracized from the cultivation world. Therefore, even though they knew that their abilities were limited, if they could, the various immortal families and sects still hoped to resolve the hidden dangers on their own. Unfortunately, the answer was going to disappoint everyone. Shen Yuanlong shook his head and said calmly, The Ganyang sect rejected our suggestion to investigate independently. They ordered all the immortal families and sects above the Foundation establishment realm to send people to the Ganyang sect within a week to accept their arrangements. Shen Yuanlong paused for a moment before continuing. Now, let's discuss who in our Shen immortal family will go to the Ganyang sect with me to partake in the operation to eliminate the demonic cultivators. According to the rules, the Shen immortal family has to send at least 4 foundation establishment cultivators and more than 200 qi refinement cultivators. Everyone tell me what you think. Just as Shen Yuanlong finished speaking, Shen Changnian laughed and said, "Count me in. It's been so long since I last killed demonic cultivators. It's time to go out and kill some. How can I miss out on such a thing? Count me in." Xing Wandao volunteered. On the other side, Su Kaiyan smiled. On the battlefield, level 2 array masters like me are definitely needed. Perhaps I can help, so count me in. Shen Deifeng and Shen Beifei, who used an array to cast their projection to attend the meeting, spoke. "Ancestor, count us in. Speaking of which, we haven't settled the score with them for wreaking havoc in our mortal city last time." Hearing these people volunteer without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan was touched. Did they not know that there was actually a huge risk in partaking in this operation with the Ganyang sect to eliminate the demonic cultivators? Perhaps the Violet Palace Realm cultivators could come out of it unscathed, but for the Foundation Establishment Realm and Qi Refinement Realm cultivators, there was a high chance that they would die if they were not careful. There was no shortage of such tragedies in the past. However, even though they knew this very well, Shen Changnian and the others didn't chicken out. Especially Xing Wandao and Su Kaiyan, who were just guest elders. Jiang Chengxuan really could not understand why they took the initiative to get themselves involved in this. On the other side, Shen Rushwang was also eager to join. Just as she was about to volunteer, Shen Yuanlong interrupted them. "All right, since everyone wants to go, let me decide." As he spoke, he glanced at everyone present and slowly said, "First of all, as level 2 array master, level 2 alchemist, level 2 talisman master, Elder Su, Shen Rushwang and Jiang Chengxuan, you are excluded from this operation. Shen Ruyan, you stay too. Also, Shen Dayaming, as the current family head, you're not allowed to go. You have to stay in the family to preside over the situation. Changnian, Deifeng, Beifei, and Elderxung, get ready. In 3 days, the 4 of you will follow me to the Ganyang sect. As for the 200 Qi Refinement Realm disciples, you can choose for yourself." Also, at this point, a solemn expression appeared on Shen Yuanlong's face. "For those of you who stay, don't slack off. You might be the main force in the upcoming Demon Beast riot. You have a greater responsibility. During this period, you have to cultivate well and increase your strength." As soon as he finished speaking, Shen Yuanlong did not give everyone a chance to speak. His figure flashed and it instantly disappeared from the meeting hall. 2 days later, Shen Dayaming appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode. He looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan and said, "Chengxuan, Ruyan, right now, Brother Deifeng and Uncle Beifei are going to the Ganyang sect with Ancestor tomorrow. They are currently in charge of guarding the spiritual vein and a level 2 market. While they are away, someone else needs to take over their place for the time being. I've already sent Elder Su over to the spiritual vein. The level 2 market is crucial for the Shen immortal family's industry. To prevent any possible accidents, I might need the 2 of you to go to that market together to guard it. Do you have any objections?" Hearing Shen Dayaming's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but look at each other and shake their heads at him. "We have no objections." "All right, there's no time to lose. Prepare yourselves and set off as soon as possible." Shen Dayaming nodded. "In addition, the trade fair that we hold every 15 years will take place in the market soon. This time, I will let you be in charge of hosting it. You can go to the family's treasure vault later and take 3 treasures as the opening of this trade fair." The White Jade market was the second largest market in the Shen immortal family after the Thousand Willow market. Now that the Thousand Willow market was severely damaged, the Shen immortal family had shifted most of their assets to the White Jade market. It could be said that the current White Jade market was already the largest market under the jurisdiction of the Shen immortal family. It could provide the Shen immortal family with at least 100,000 spirit stones every year. At this moment, in a building called the White Jade Palace in the White Jade Market, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were reading the dossier on the recent situation of the White Jade Market while listening to the reports of the people present. This was the 3rd day since they arrived at the White Jade Market. It had to be said that there were a lot of things involved in the management of a market. This included maintaining the safety of the market, implementing the system of the market, inquiring about the various things in the market, and establishing connections with the markets under the jurisdiction of the other Violet Palace Realm families or sects. If Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had to do all these things themselves, how would they have the time to cultivate and improve themselves? Therefore, they had already thought about what to do before coming. They would only control the overall situation of the market and attend a few key events. As for the rest, they could leave it to the subordinates to handle. After all, in the cultivation world where the winner took it all, nothing was more important than one's strength. At this moment, the couple had already finished hearing the reports from the people present. Shen Ruyan said to an old man in his 70s named Shen Bohong, "Elder Bohong, I'll need you and the others to take care of the matters in the market. If there's no need, my husband and I don't want to be disturbed." "All right, if there's nothing else, that's all for now." Shen Bohong and the others nodded. A middle-aged woman called Shen Feiyan said, "Elders, the large-scale trade fair will be held in 3 days. I'm afraid we still need you to preside over this event." "No problem." Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded. Shen Ruyan said, "We know about this. When the time comes, we will be in charge of hosting it." Shen Bohong, Shen Feiyan, and the others did not stay any longer. After bowing to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, they left. Shen Ruyan turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan and said with a smile, "Husband, in 3 days, let's go to the trade fair together. At that time, we can see if there is anything we want to exchange. Especially the Heaven Essence pill that can help you break through to the mid-stage foundation establishment realm. Before the demon beast riot arrives, you and I should increase our strength as much as we can." As they spoke, the two of them had already packed up the things on the table in front of them and walked into the cultivation room. At the same time, Shen Wandao, Shen Changyan, Shen Deifeng, and Shen Beifei had also followed their ancestor, Shen Yuanlong, to the Genyang sect. As soon as they arrived at the Genyang sect, they saw Shen Mengsu, who had come out to receive them. Shen Mengsu still had a head of white hair. However, Shen Yuanlong acutely sensed that there seemed to be an additional death aura on his sister. He asked nervously, "Sister, what's happening to you?" "It's nothing." Shen Mengsu smiled and shook her head. "Previously, pecking at the heavenly secret consumed some of my lifespan." At this point, Shen Mengsu's face slowly turned solemn. She looked at Shen Yuanlong and changed the topic. "Brother, I have a bad feeling about the Genyang sect's operation this time. Remember, you and the others from the Shen family have to stay away from Elder Nangong. Try to stay as far away as possible. I haven't told anyone about this. Remember not to mention it to anyone." The elder Nangong Shen Mengsu was talking about was the Golden Core Realm Immortal from the Genyang sect, who was in charge of this operation. This made Shen Yuanlong's heart heavy for no reason. Shen Yuanlong had never taken his sister's reminder lightly. Because of her reminder, the Shen Immortal family managed to stay clear of many disasters. This time it was even more serious. It was very likely that they would lose their life. 3 days after Shen Yuanlong and the others arrived at the Genyang sect, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who were in the White Jade market, arrived at a place called the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. This was also the venue for the trade fair. As soon as the two of them arrived at the Cloud Immortal Pavilion, they saw that many cultivators had already gathered here. Among many strange faces, Jiang Chengxuan recognized some of the people who he had seen at the trade fair at the market under the Flowing Cloud sect. They were Wan Donglai of the Flowing Cloud sect, Yan Junlin of the Sunset sect, Yi Feiken of the Yi Immortal family, and a foundation establishment realm cultivator called Gu Zhenming of the Eternal Sky sect. On the other hand, Shen Ruyan knew most of the people present. As she walked, she introduced the people present to Jiang Chengxuan via voice transmission. "That's the foundation establishment realm elder of the Zhang Immortal family, Zhang Kaixuan. That's the independent cultivator, Huang He. The one on the right seems to be called Bai Hao. His nickname is Mad Swordsman. He's a true sword cultivator." At this moment, Yan Junlin of the Sunset sect walked over and greeted Jiang Chengxuan with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, long time no see." Then she looked curiously at Shen Ruyan, who was beside Jiang Chengxuan. It seemed that she didn't know Shen Ruyan. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan took the initiative to introduce, "Fellow Taoist Yan, let me introduce you. This is my Tao companion, Shen Ruyan." Then he looked at Shen Ruyan and said, "Ruyan, this is fellow Taoist Yan Junlin of the Sunset sect. She's also fellow Taoist Qiu Yishui's junior sister. So your fellow Taoist Jiang's Tao companion. Nice to meet you." Yan Junlin immediately cupped her hands at Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan returned the greeting with a smile. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan looked at Yan Junlin and couldn't help but ask curiously, "By the way, fellow Taoist Yan, is fellow Taoist Q not with you this time?" Hearing Jiang Chengxuan mention Q Yishui, Yan Junlin looked worried. She shook her head and said, "This time, she was summoned to the Ganyang sect. I don't know if there will be any danger." Again, she went to the Ganyang sect. Jiang Chengxuan felt inexplicably sad. To be honest, it was really hard to predict whether going to the Ganyang sect would be a blessing or a curse. In the end, he still said a few comforting words to Yan Junlin before going to greet the others with Shen Ruyan. After a while, the trade fair officially began. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan walked onto the stage together. The couple first introduced themselves to everyone present before taking out 3 things and placing them on a jade table in front of them. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and said, "Everyone, the 3 treasures in front of you are a high-grade level 2 firethorn grass, a high-grade level 2 profound gold jade, and a bottle of high-grade level 2 medicinal pill, the dragon strengthening pill. I believe there's no need for me to say more about the value of these 3 things. The firethorn grass is the main material for refining the high-grade level 2 pill, the 3 yang pill. As for the profound gold jade, it's the main material for setting up arrays and refining high-grade level 2 dharma artifacts. Now, our Shen immortal family wants to use them to exchange for spiritual items that can increase the grade of a level 2 spiritual root, or a method to cultivate the spiritual root. Of course, if you don't have any, you can use items of equivalent value to exchange." This time, Jiang Chengxuan took out these things on behalf of the Shen immortal family. His goal was not to really exchange for anything, but to show everyone that he was the host. Even if the people present wanted to use spirit stones to buy these things, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan would not have any objections. Perhaps they were lucky. Someone had a treasure that could increase the grade of a low-grade level 2 spiritual root. It was called the cleansing spiritual fluid. However, it was clearly impossible to exchange for all 3 items with just this bottle of spiritual fluid. In the end, Jiang Chengxuan used a piece of profound gold jade and a bottle of dragon strengthening pill to exchange for the bottle of cleansing spiritual fluid. After that, Jiang Chengxuan exchanged the firethorn grass and obtained a high-grade level 2 spiritual herb called the butterfly spirit flower. After trading on behalf of the Shen immortal family, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took out a few of their own items to trade. Jiang Chengxuan took out some level 2 talismans and level 2 precious materials. What he requested was naturally the extreme yellow jade and the heavenly spiritual dew, as well as the heavenly essence pill that could be used to break through to the 4th level of the foundation establishment realm. As for Shen Ruyan, she took out 2 high-grade level 2 spiritual herbs and a high-grade level 2 precious material. What she wanted to exchange was something called the lightning heavenly crystal. It contained a large amount of lightning elements and was also the main material for refining lightning element dharma artifact. As it happened, 2 people had the items Shen Ruyan and Jiang Chengxuan were looking for. One of them was the independent cultivator, Huang He, while the other was an acquaintance of Jiang Chengxuan, Yan Junlin. There was an extreme yellow jade, a lightning heavenly crystal, and a heavenly essence pill in Huang He's hands. In Yan Junlin's hand were 2 extreme yellow jades, a bottle of heavenly spiritual dew, and 2 lightning transformation crystals. There were no heavenly essence pills. This gave Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan a surprise. Without hesitation, the couple exchanged everything they needed. At the same time, they had to pay an additional 8,000 spirit stones. However, to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, it was worth it. After that, people went on stage to trade one after another. It had to be said that as the demon beast riot approached, coupled with the Ganyang sect's operation this time, the price of dharma artifacts, medicinal pills, and talismans that could increase one's combat strength and cultivation was clearly much higher than before. Basically, as long as they were put on the table, they would be quickly traded away. Until the entire trade fair ended, other than using 3,000 spirit stones to buy a mid-grade level 2 talisman brush, Jiang Chengxuan and his wife did not see anything else that was really useful to them. After everyone in the Cloud Immortal Pavilion slowly left, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not stay any longer. After bidding farewell to a few familiar people, they returned to the White Jade Palace. After returning to the White Jade Palace, the couple chatted for a while. Because the two of them had their own things to do, they did not talk for too long. A moment later, they went to their respective cultivation rooms. When he arrived at his cultivation room, Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out the 3 extreme yellow jades he had obtained, and a bottle of heavenly spiritual dew, in addition to the remaining bottle of heavenly spiritual dew. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had a total of 3 extreme yellow jades and 2 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew. With Jiang Chengxuan's original talisman-making mastery, he could at most make 2 golden armor puppet talismans with the materials at hand. However, now that his talisman-making mastery had already broken through to mid-grade level 2, coupled with the system's reward, and the mid-grade level 2 talisman brush, Jiang Chengxuan felt that he might be able to try and draw 3 golden armor puppet talismans. Without further ado, Jiang Chengxuan began the work. Firstly, he tried to refine the mid-grade level 2 talisman brush. About a month later, this mid-grade level 2 talisman brush was successfully refined by Jiang Chengxuan. Then, Jiang Chengxuan began to draw the golden armored puppet talisman. It had to be said that with only 2 bottles of heavenly spiritual dew and 3 extreme yellow jade, it was still a little difficult to make 3 golden armor puppet talismans. If he was not careful, it was possible for all these materials to be wasted. Fortunately, the talisman-making talent rewarded by the system was quite powerful. After spending nearly a year, Jiang Chengxuan finally succeeded in making 3 more golden-armored puppet talismans. In addition to the 3 he already made, there were a total of 6 golden-armored puppet talismans. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan's cultivation level had almost reached the peak of the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment realm. After adjusting his mind, Jiang Chengxuan finally took out the heavenly essence pill he had exchanged from Huang He. If he could break through to the 4th level of the Foundation establishment realm this time, which was the mid-stage, his strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. At that time, even if he encountered a late-stage Foundation establishment realm cultivator, he should have the ability to fight him head-on. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan began to circulate the 5 elements true technique as he swallowed the heaven essence pill.